DyrmaXXX is 8.5 points between them. With Johnny Adam and Graham Davidson, the 4 men at the moment, they won last time at Donington Park on 72.5 points, so they're a little way back, but a win or even a podium here if the Lamborghinis struggle could be enough to bring them right into play. In GT4, it's even closer though, because whilst in GT3 it has been rather Lamborghini dominated in the early part of the season at least, in GT4 it has been anybody's guess, quite frankly, from race to race. The Multimatic Motorsport Ford Mustang squad have done well, and Scott Maxwell and Sebastian Prio's number 15 car has won twice this year, including the most recent race at Donington Park. However, they only arrive here less than 10 points clear of Dee McDonald and Callum Poynton in the HHC Motorsport McLaren, and then it's the Tolman Motorsport McLaren of Jordan Collard and Lewis Proctor that of the two Tolman cars has been enjoying most of the good fortune this year. They were winners earlier on this season at Snetterton as well, and they are third in the points with Calvin Fletcher and Martin Plowman fourth overall in GT4, leading the Pro-Am rankings. So the cars then are making their way down onto the grid, and a busy old grid it is, a sunny grid at the moment as well for the time being, but as Andy J said, you can see up in the sky there definitely some slightly threatening clouds. And the number 8 machine there that's rolling onto the 6th grid position will be started by Richard Neary, with Adam Christodoulou taking the wheel afterwards. Pole position after qualifying yesterday, a wet qualifying session yesterday, went to the number 96 Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin of Ollie Wilkinson and Bradley Ellis, and their combined qualifying time, because qualifying is split into 2 sessions, an AM and a Pro session, and they add the fastest AM lap to the fastest Pro lap, and their combined time was 1.8 seconds quicker than anybody else. It's the WPI Motorsport car that starts second on the grid. That will be started by Mike Ligo, but Dennis Lind will take over after the pit stops, and he is down with Andy J.
Yes, I'm happy to say I'm here with Dennis Lind. Now, Dennis, yesterday you were so quick. I think when you took the car in quali, you were around about 11th, and here we are. You managed to get them into P2. Why were you so fast? What was your secret?
Yeah, well, we're in a good car. We have been a good car. The team has done a great job putting the car together for us. We know the Lambos really quickly in the rain. We had a good race in Monza also with it in the rain, so we know the car is quick. We know what it's capable of. So yeah, here we are.
I mean, you've really set a marker down, haven't you now? All the other teams are going to go, hang on, he's starting P2. If he has a decent first turn, he's going to be hard to catch. Yeah,
I think we're in a really good position. I think the 2 silvers who are behind and in front of Michael will probably get past him and probably do some distance on him, but if he can stay in that position, then it's really good for the team.
It's going to be very exciting to watch. Thank you, Dennis. Enjoy yourself. Appreciate it. Guys, shall we? I think I can see Bradley Ellis as well. I saw Bradley Ellis and he's wandered off. You know, the challenge with this little 5-10 minute pre-car's arrival is that the drivers come out and then they kind of walk around. But I'm pleased to say I have spotted him. So let's grab him, because there's a really nice fact. Hey Bradley, how you doing? We're live. I would request that you don't swear. I know you're not a big swearer, so we're all good. Now Bradley, I've got a big question for you, because this is quite an important moment for you. Your last British GT pole, can you remember when it was? It was 11 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2008.
Yeah, it's 11 years
long time ago.
Now, the good news is, the last time you were on pole in British GT, you went on to win the race.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's the same result again today. So, no, I mean, Ollie did an amazing job yesterday in the wet. I mean, it's the first time I've driven the car properly in the wet as well. So, now I think the team did a great job to give us a car that was drivable in such a short time, because the rain obviously came 10-15 minutes before the start of quali, so a bit of a panic, but yeah, the team did a great job and we enjoyed driving it, so it was good fun.
I tried to make it clear to our fantastic viewers that the rain is one of the most unpredictable things about Spa, isn't it?
Yeah, so you don't even need to look at a weather app, because you never know what's coming. Just look at the sky and then you get what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. That's about it.
Have you got any tactics? Have you sort of had a bit of a discussion about what's going to happen in this race?
Yeah, I've told Ollie just give me a huge lead and then I can just try and hold on.
He'll have never heard that before. No. Appreciate you talking to us. Cool. Have a good race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I should probably run down to GT4, don't you? Are you guys all right to just have a bit of a chat? Because again, it's quite a way.
I suppose we could do that for you, Andy. Yeah, that is what we're here to do after all. We were just having a look at some of the work being done to the Optimum car, actually. Looks like maybe something to do with the exhaust manifold. The expert alongside me tells me. To me, it's all just very expensive bits of Aston Martin, but that Aston Martin was quick yesterday in both sessions. As you'd expect, I suppose, it is a silver driver lineup, so they have to carry an extra 30 kilos of success ballast as well. In GT4, it's slightly less success ballast, just 20 kilos, but they have to spend a bit longer in the pit lane than their Pro-Am counterparts. let's talk about GT4 then, because it was a fascinating GT3 qualifying session. The GT4 session was even more topsy-turvy, wasn't it? The number 42 Century Motorsport squad, a car that could do with a good result, really, Jacob Mathieson and Mark Kimber, qualified on pole position, and in the AM session, Mark Kimber was about 3 or 4 seconds quicker than anybody else. The reason for that being they judged the tyre situation perfectly, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And like we say, when the rain comes in, it also goes away. So it's easy to bolt wets on because you know it's raining. It's harder to know when to put slicks back on. The track doesn't dry evenly. If it's in the sunlight, if it's getting the wind more, even altitude makes quite a big difference here at Spa. And the Century guys called it bang on, and they were the only car in their session to gamble on slicks, and that did lead to a 3.4 second margin over everyone else. The second session was clearly more dry, so everyone went to slicks, but even then it was only the last kind of laps that made sense for those slick runners. So it's so difficult as a driver and an engineer. There's always a good argument. The engineer tends to be a bit more cautious. They're a bit more academic normally than a driver, so they'll look at the facts and the figures, whereas the driver I would tend to look at the straight, try and look at the last corner and get a bit of a build-up, a picture of what to do. So that's why we've seen a real topsy-turvy GT4 grid there.
Well, speaking of Mark Kimber then, who put in that brilliant performance yesterday, I believe that Andy J has made his way down to the BMW and is there to talk to him.
I'm down in pole position in GT4. I promised you I'd get here, but it's quite a hike. It's fabulous here. I've got Mark Kimber with me. Now, Mark, you guys obviously on pole by some margin, and I believe that's because you made quite a maverick call with staying on slicks in the wet.
Yeah, Jacob made the right call in the first qualifying session, choosing to go out on slicks, because the track here dries really quick due to the nature of the circuit, so it ended up being a bit of a gamble, but it paid out in the end. So
it's quite, I mean, it was quite some turnout, wasn't it? About 3.5 seconds over everyone else.
Yeah, at the start of the session we were a little bit behind on times, and then as the track dried out, I think he went around about 4 seconds, quickest by 4 seconds. So yeah, so it gave us quite a margin.
Let's talk about pressure. How are you feeling going into this race?
I'm pretty confident. The car felt good in warm-up, so made a few changes, and it's looking quite good for the race. If we can manage the tyres, and then I think we've got a good chance.
BMW's around Spa, pretty special relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never been to the track before, so I haven't done many laps around here before.
Well, tell me what it was like the first time you went up Eau Rouge then.
Yeah, it's pretty scary at first, but you've got to build up to it, so yeah. But
did you have a moment where you're just like, I'm going up Eau Rouge in a race car?
A little bit, yeah, but yeah, it's quite special to drive this track, so yeah, really excited for the race as well.
Brilliant. Enjoy yourself. I'll let you get in the zone. Have a good one. Guys, if I've got time, I'll go and try and get a bit further back and see if I really want to try and bring Andy Priaulx to you, because of course he's guesting here, taking on, well, he's got a car with Sir Chris Hoy. They're sharing a car, and it was a father-son situation because of course Andy is taking on Seb, even though they're sort of teammates, and Andy just edged it in quali, like only just. So I want to try and grab them if I can, but again, it's a hike, so you might have to find me.
Right, okay. Well, it is a good story that, though, isn't it? Because Andy Priaulx is on the same grid as his son now, in the same team, but in different cars, and Andy is actually sharing with one Sir Chris Hoy. Now, between the two of them, they've got some 14 world titles, 2 MBEs and a knighthood, so they really should know what they're doing, and they're both handy drivers as well. Chris Hoy's done quite a lot of catering racing, races a historic mini quite often as well, and they're in the number 19 car together then, Andy Priaulx and Sir Chris Hoy, and it will be Chris that takes the start of the race. The sister car has qualified a bit further up the order, and that will be Seb Priaulx and Scott Maxwell, who will be sharing that car, and because they're silver drivers, they can alternate who takes the start, so we'll find out momentarily. I think usually Seb does the second stint, and it's Scott who does the first part of the race. The grid is being cleared now, so I don't know how much Priaulx chat we'll be able to bring you. We'll let you know if we can.
Wow.
We should be able to find out in the middle of the race. Now, that's something you don't see every day, Joe, isn't it? Possibly for the best.
Yeah, that's a strong look. Yeah, I think we've seen F1 get rid of grid girls this year, quite rightly, I think, as well. And yeah, it's a full circle, isn't it? That's going all the way. Looks like they'd probably already paid for their grid girl outfit, and the grid girl's transformed into a grid boy.
And it fits wonderfully, I must say. So there we go. That's some nice inclusivity then on the pit, and that was on the grid. Excuse me. That was the Ram racing car, which starts, by the way, from 4th on the grid with Ian Loggy at the wheel. The car that won that dramatic race at Silverstone earlier this year. There is Sir Chris Hoy, who is multiple Olympic cycling champion and has raced in British GT before, of course. A few years ago, he was at the wheel of the RJN Nissan GTR in the GT3 category, and again, was pretty handy. He was one of the top AM drivers back in the day. They were rather hampered, I think, by the tricky conditions in qualifying. Well, I think Andy might just have made it down that far down the grid. Andy, where are you?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of beyond the back of the grid now. We managed to catch Andy just as he was dashing back to the team. Now, Andy, I said in a little bit of a waffle that there's a little bit of father-son rivalry going on, and currently you're just nudging it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, it's nice. Sebi's, you know, a driver at the beginning of his career. I'm a driver that's, let's say, present and almost past, but still really feisty. And yesterday, he wouldn't want me to give him anything, and you know, I gave as much as I could to help him and develop him, but he's never been to Spa before, and he's running the car 20 kilos heavier because I'm a Pro-Am, and he equaled my time pretty much with the weight and everything, so he's doing a great job, and the Multimatic guys are just awesome with him and giving him an amazing chance to go and to race in British GT, which is a superb championship.
You managed to answer that like both a racer and a dad.
It's not an easy one because I don't want to go home getting, you know, totally beaten by my son, but at the same time, you know, I know that Seb spent a lot of time in this car and he's super quick, and I didn't expect me to just be up the road. He is really driving well, and but you know, I'm competitive, and yeah, I've been a factory driver for 21 years, so he wouldn't want me to give him anything. You know, he's a racer and he's competitive, and you know, we're just doing our best and letting the natural process take its own process, and we'll see who's there at the end. But he's in a great position on the grid. He set a strong lap. He's P3. He's leading the British GT Championship with Scott Maxwell. So it's all focused on them now.
This makes me feel quite a bit better about not letting my eldest score every goal past me in the garden. Now let's talk about your car, because this is a special car, isn't it? Probably the most decorated car in terms of your combined honours that we've ever had, sharing with Sir Chris Hoy.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolute legend Sir Chris is, and really super nice guy, very professional. It's a great honour for me to drive with him. He's scored a few more world titles than me, but we've both got a few. So it's a lovely opportunity, and you know, obviously the guys at Multimatic, Larry and everybody put it together, and they're just, it's lovely to get that chance, you know, to race at Spa with your son in a great car, the Ford Mustang, and with the legend Sir Chris Hoy.
A lovely family weekend. Thank you for talking to us. Have an excellent race.
All right,
enjoy
guys,
yourself. Guys, I'm sure you've got more important things to do now than to listen to me, so race on, huh?
Well, indeed so, and already drama, or near drama anyway, for the championship leaders there who stalled on the grid, but as we saw, thankfully they did get going. Here is the grid then, and it is Aston Martin from Lamborghini on the front row. Ollie Wilkinson will start the Optimum Motorsport car. Alongside him will be Michael Igoe. Ryan Ratcliffe in the other silver entry is third in the Bentley with Ian Lockie's Mercedes, fourth, and then another Mercedes, then the Adam Ballon car will be fifth, alongside the other Mercedes of Team ABBA Racing's Richard Neary. Then Sam DeHaan, second in the championship then, just behind the sister car on the grid, with Rick Parfitt keen for a good result in the 31 Bentley. Then Dominic Paul in the Century Motorsport BMW, Graham Davidson in the number 47 TF Sport Car winner last time, ahead of Sean Balfe in the McLaren, and Mark Farmer in the second TF Sport Aston Martin. Tony Quinn and the M2 competition squad are making their debut this weekend. He's got Darren Turner alongside him, Seamus Jennings alongside him on the grid, then J.M. Littman before Jacob Mathiasen, who is the lead GT4 car for Century Motorsport. Patrick Kibble is second in class with Scott Maxwell, the championship leader, the car that he shares with Seb Prio, third on the grid. James Dorlin desperately in need of a good result. He lines up fourth with Calvin Fletcher, rounding out the top five, and again the quickest AM driver in qualifying. Then it's Ash Hand for TF Sport, Jordan Collard in the better of the two Tolman Motorsport cars in the championship, but lower down the grid than the sister car. Mark Murphy and Alex Toft-Jones just outside the top 10 in the GT4 grid. Patrick Mathiesen's Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin has Callum Poynton's HHC McLaren alongside. Then you've got Nick Jones and Richard Williams sharing the 14th row of the grid. Jack Butel and Steve McCulley in the Invictus Games Racing Jaguar that's sprung a few good Pro-Am results so far this year. He lines up 30th overall, ahead of Eric Behrens in the Alfab Racing McLaren, again making its first appearance. Sam Smelt's Race Performance Ford Mustang is next, ahead of Graham Johnson and Andrew Gordon Colebrook in the second of the Century BMWs, not enjoying the same fortunes really as the sister car. Then it's Mika Stanley and Sir Chris Hoy, car number 19, starting 36th on the grid, some way down the order, 21st in GT4. Ruben Del Sart and Mia Fluitt, 38th, with Brent Millage next up. In the car he shares with Dino Zamparelli, the Porsche Cayman, and at the back of the grid, the pair of McEwens, unfortunately. Alex and Ross will be coming from 25th and last in GT4. So, this is it then, the 7th round of the championship, the business end of the 2019 season now, well and truly, with lots of nice juicy points on offer in this 2-hour encounter. The result of this race could prove to be pivotal in deciding who lifts the championship trophy in both GT3 and GT4. It's also mathematically possible for Barwell to wrap up the team's championship in GT3 if both of their cars are in the top few positions, but we'll get to the points permutations a little bit later on. So Ollie Wilkinson then will start the Aston Martin from pole position. Michael Igoe, who we've seen getting involved in some brilliant races earlier on this year at Silverstone in particular, he put in a real star turn, making some brilliant double overtakes. He only has to overtake one car though from where he starts, but that car is being driven by one of the two silver graded drivers, both of whom are right next to him on the grid, because you've also got Ryan Ratcliffe third with Ian Logie fourth. 2 hours of racing here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium gets off to a very messy start. They're going to surely abort the start, are they? The red lights are still on. No, they do go out very late, but that's a really congested start, and they're going to be even more bunched together into last source than they normally would be. Here comes Ian Logie into second position. GT4 cars are on the grass. Everyone holding their breath in the hope they all get through. So far, so good for GT3. GT4 have kept themselves together as well, miraculously, but that was a very clumsy start, and out of it all, it is still going to be Optimum that lead the way. Ram Racing second, then it's the Bentley Continental from Team Parker Racing in third, whilst Michael Igoe goes down to fourth, ahead of the championship leader Adam Ballon in fifth position on the grid. The GT4 category make their way through as well. Oh, that's not a place you want to be on the curb making contact. One of the HHC cars trying to make progress. Whew, that was close, and I thought for a horrifying moment it was all going to end in tears. Ryan Ratcliffe and Ian Logie. Now, we've seen this somewhere before, haven't we? Remember back to Alton Park at the start of the season when these two made contact a lap and a half into the first race of the season. And speaking of contact, that's Sam DeHaan that goes round. Contact from Rick Parfitt, and the car that's second place in the points is pointing the wrong way, facing the oncoming GT4 traffic, who I think have all seen him, and that was a heart-stopping moment. But this is the second race in the last 3 that one of the Barwell cars has been pointing the wrong way on the first lap. It is almost like they're trying to lose this championship, isn't it? Now, that wasn't intentional, of course, but luck plays such a big factor in motor racing, and that was really a bit of bad luck they could not afford.
Yeah, awful luck. I didn't see what the contact was. Obviously, Rick was on the inside as we see the Mustang versus the Aston and GT4. Mustang's not really an overtaking place into Pool, not big enough brake spot, but yeah, it looked like Sam DeHaan was happy with his position and Rick was happy with his, and they didn't really see each other in the collide. And yeah, as you said, the championship now, the momentum is swinging away from Barwell as we get a replay. So we're trying to look behind, and it just looks like Rick's hit the apex curve, which has unsettled his car and forced him to run a foot or two wider. And unfortunately, that's where Sam DeHaan was occupying the space. And I think Sam DeHaan was fully innocent there, in my opinion. He's got a lot of work to do. The good thing is he's got an hour and 57 minutes to do it. That's one of the messiest starts I've ever seen from British GT. It looked like the GT3 girls. We see Sean Balfe trying to go around the outside there. Fairly big car, that BMW, so I'm not sure if he'd even seen him, as we see Davidson get down the inside of Igoe. And I think what we're seeing here is a wet qualifying, which obviously everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses driver and car wise, but now it's dry, everyone's in the wrong order potentially, so that's why we're seeing so much action so early on. But everyone did a good job from that initial messy start where the lights, and I thought we were going to go for a delayed start. We did go, and everyone kept out of the wall as we see 2 battles going into the source hairpin, trying to get the cutback, get the exit, and off we go. So this is Ballon all the way through.
Yeah, it's definitely not Sean Balfe. No. I can see that's we're on board with the 72 Lamborghini, and it is the Team ABBA racing car of Richard Neary he's trying to overtake. Driver of the day so far, though, has to be Graham Davidson, who's got himself into 4th position from 10th on the grid, to highlight your point of how jumbled up the order is at the moment. And yeah, the number 47 TF Sport Aston Martin on real charge. You mentioned that he just got past Michael Igoe's WPI car. Here comes Sean Balfe on the inside of 2 cars into late car. Oh, that was close, and it's still not over yet, because that's the other Barwell car that nearly is on the receiving end of a punt from the McLaren. that was never really on, but an ambitious move to make. Thankfully, though, Sean backed out of it before it actually did develop into anything that he couldn't get himself out of.
Yeah, it was almost a bit reminiscent of the F1 move Hakkinen and Schumacher at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Luckily, no contact on either of those, but looks like Sean's got a pretty quick car underneath him, and actually looks like he's probably happy to stay there. And Neary at the moment looks like he's the cork in the bottle, with a few cars stacked up. So his car might start to improve as the fuel load comes off, as we see him on the curb turning in. It's always going to unsettle it, and I think Dillane feels like he's out of position as well. So we can already see the leaders in the distance getting away. So if you're looking to try and get a podium out of this race, then Dillane, Balfe, Parfit all need to try and get past Neary as soon as they can.
Yeah, they already at the end of the previous lap, Dillane was 7.2 seconds off the race lead. That's growing by the corner though. And as you said, Richard Neary, not only is he not as quick as Dillane, but he's also defending, which further holds everybody up. Got a bit of a gap now, though, as they head through the bottom part of the circuit. Wilkinson pulling a gap at the front of the field from Loggy second, then Ratcliffe third, but Graham Davidson is the man on a mission here, and he's catching those two cars in front of him, so a three-way fight for second is about to develop, I think. And then this battle going on between Mercedes, Lamborghini, McLaren, Bentley, and then BMW, all getting themselves closer together as well as they head through Blanchimont on board again with Sean Balfe, who is in 8th position, in fact, at the moment, because he's got past Dominic Paul's BMW on this lap. Nearly got another 2 places at the end of the Kemmel Straight last time around. Neary again, not on the ideal line through the bus stop, and this is Ballone's opportunity maybe to get alongside, but Adam has to be careful here, doesn't he? Because the slightest misstep here from any of these drivers could spell disaster for his championship hopes. Yeah, exactly that, and he's the only guy in this group that's got a championship hope, and all the other drivers will know that, and their co-drivers will be reminding them. As we see that Merc's got great traction, considering it's front engine versus a mid-engine car, which the mid-engine car should accelerate better. Looks like that Merc's just got a little bit more. Let's watch him through Eau Rouge. We'll see which car's a bit more confident carrying the speed. Looks pretty equal. Dillane cutting the top. We are running to FIA track limits here, even though it's a British series. So as long as you've got one wheel, it sounds strange to have one, not two, but one wheel, as we see Dillane probably getting done by Balfe if we shoot to the exterior, see if he's done it all the way around and drag Parfit all the way through. So as we're talking, he's got a championship to consider, and from going to get past Neary at the front, he's now 4th in line to get past Neary. So it's yeah, all change. And of course, Graham Davidson saying the perfect thing here, isn't he, by applying pressure to Barwell. He's got storming up the road and is challenging already for a podium, and the Barwell car is slipping down the order. So this momentum shift that we've been talking about from Barwell to TF Sport, it does seem to be continuing rather, at least in the first 6.5 minutes of this 2-hour encounter. There's a long way to go, but time lost now in such a competitive series as this is not going to be easy for them to regain later on. Yeah, exactly, and I think Parfit's also a slight dark horse here. Yesterday had his 3rd pole position in 3 years at GT3, so he's got a lot of pace as well, as we see Neary dropped 2 places already on this lap, so it's starting to unfold into a slightly different battle now. Yeah, and then you've also got Dominic Paul and Mark Farmer joining in now. Mark Farmer there in the blue Aston Martin was a bit wide at the exit, just about, I think, within the rules. That won't really have helped his exit speed particularly. This is all getting rather close now in the early stages. Right, let's drag our eyes away from GT3 for a moment and focus on GT4, where this man, James Dorlin, is leading the way by nearly 3 seconds at the moment over second place man Ash Hand in the Aston Martin there, who's got his TF Sport teammate Patrick Kibble, the youngest driver on the grid, right behind him, and then the other Tolman car of Jordan Collard in 4th, with Scott Maxwell, who was 4th at the start of the lap, now down to 5th position. So Aston Martin and McLaren seeming fairly evenly matched here. Now Patrick Kibble flashing his lights here at his teammate. There can be nothing more infuriating if you're Ash Hand than seeing that in your mirrors, but if Kibble feels he's quicker, when do the team step in and say, well, let him go and see if he can chase the leader? Very difficult. At this level, both silver drivers, so these guys are trying to make a profession out of this. The team can advise, but both of them are in their right to do what they want. It's not Formula One. These guys aren't getting paid. They all need to prove their worth to try and become professional later on in the GT3 kind of category. And it looks like they're pretty even over that first half a lap that we watched. Obviously, Dorlin's got the jump as we see, which is good, and it looks like from Collard's infuriating headlight flashing that he thinks he's quicker than the 2 Astons as well. We see how much time Sam DeHaan's lost. He's not even leading GT4 yet, so having to let all those GT4s go past him, then turn around and get going, you can understand how much time lost that is. And
being brutal already. If he wants a result, they need a safety car at some point over the next hour and 51 minutes to close everyone back up and allow him to get rid of some of that time deficit.
Yeah, Sander had his 46 seconds off the GT3 race lead, just to put this into some perspective. This is not the GT3 lead, but it is second place, and it's Ian Loggy still in second, Ryan Ratcliffe and Graham Davidson right with him. And there is the Optimum car leading the way of Ollie Wilkinson then. And there, Michael Igo running in 6th position. Sean Balfe should come through next in 7th. There he is. And then Rick Parfitt going with him. So these two seem fairly equal on pace at the moment. There's the number 8 car, the Team ABBA Racing Machine of Richard Neary. I believe we're going to see a replay here of how he lost this ground. Oh, Pouhon is not a place you want the rear of the car to be behaving badly, but that seemed to be the case there, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a big old moment. He turned in all right, and then the car just loaded up and sent out as we go to the dash foot cam of Sean Balfe. So be interested to see if he left foot or right foot brakes. This is a great camera to have live. We sometimes use this in driver coaching to see if there's any problems with fitting position, and you can see how long he's been full throttle, how quick Spa is. Something like 60%. There's a little lift as he goes into Blanchon, back to full, and then we'll see a big brake into the bus stop. He's probably going to go down 5 gears. Right foot braking, going down the gears. You can see no heel and toe needed. Paddle shift does it all for you now. But that's a great shot to see what the driver's doing there and how much of Spa is full throttle.
Yeah, well, exactly. To see who's taking the brave pills through Blanchimont to No Rouge as well, because there was, as you said, that little comfort lift there, wasn't it, just to make sure the car was settled. Now, Adam Ballon seems to have found a bit of fire in his belly again now. He's starting to attack Richard Neary here. This is the battle that's going on for 9th position overall, I believe, and this is the fight they were having 2 or 3 laps ago, but for about 5th position, and now they've lost those places, and still Ballon can't find a way through. So the Team ABBA Racing Mercedes holding on for now, and they do seem to have different strengths and weaknesses. Through Eau Rouge there, the Lamborghini may be able to carry a bit more corner speed, but then what's the straight line speed like? Remember, Ballon has a slipstream as well here, and isn't really taking chunks out of the Mercedes, is it? Still, Richard Neary feels the need to defend the inside line, though, and this is going to back Ballon up into Graham Davidson's teammate, Mark Farmer, who goes around the outside, and that was a lovely move by Mark Farmer, who's taken his criticism this year, but that was a really nice move. And again, an important one, thinking about the championship battle. Mark Farmer is out of it now, championship-wise, but his teammate needs this 72 car to fall as many places down the order as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've seen the strength of the Aston Martin there. It's not even in the slipstream, and it's driven past Ballon, so maybe the Lamborghini's hurting a little bit top speed, but Mark's done it perfectly, got it stopped, and then again Ballon's worrying about a championship. He can't try and outbrake Farmer and risk any contact, so he's just had to back out of it. And I think Ballon probably needs to regroup now. It looks like he's just been shotgun approach trying to attack Neary. He needs to pick one spot every lap, pick that spot and find his weakness. We've seen a mistake at Pouhon from Neary, so maybe coming out of a no-name, he needs to show his nose going into Pouhon and try and replicate that mistake, because at the moment this is really hurting him, as we see all stations the same in GT4. These guys are following each other so closely. Not quite as much downforce as GT3, so it doesn't hurt your lap time quite as much, and you're able to do that. But we see, unfortunately for Ballon, he's still got Lippmann behind him as well, so he's not even clear behind and can fully concentrate on looking forward. He might be better to try and stay with Farmer and use Farmer to be the guy to open the door on Neary and follow him through, as we kind of saw Parfitt do with Balfe on Neary. And you see him using all the road and a bit more on the way in there to Blanchimont, just to open the corner up and take away some of those angles, so you can try and make it flat through there without having to lift.
Back to GT4 then. Second place this is in GT4, and it does look as though the 97 car of Ash Hand is starting to hold up Patrick Kibble a bit, and now Patrick is really feeling the heat from Jordan Collard and Scott Maxwell behind, and they are rather allowing James Dawley to pull away. James is over 3 seconds up the road from them now. This Mark Farmer Aston Martin continues to go on the attack now, trying to find a way past Richard Neary. And again, the Mercedes does get off that corner bar. Now, it looks to me, again, from an untrained vantage point, there's a lot of weight over the back of that Mercedes. Does that help, do you think, that initial traction and grip off the tight corners? Because it does seem to really good off that hairpin, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think as well, it's just got so much torque, and great pun, by the way, by Vantage Point, on board with the Vantage. But we see now the top speed of the Vantage, and I think he's just going to be able to cruise past him. I think Neary's defenceless unless he goes really late on the brakes, which he does, and proves me wrong nicely, and keeps that position. And you can see he's run wide. He's now going to slow everyone up again. And this gap for Dillane is going to be absolutely killing him inside. He's worried about the championship for not crashing, but if you don't have enough points to win the championship, it doesn't really matter.
He's not there. Adam Dillane is not there because JM Lippmann is, but
Yes.
where has the Lamborghini gone to? It came across...
Into the pits.
Yes,
It's
it
on
didn't
an
come across
out
the
lap.
line. It must be in the pit lane. So what has happened? We need to try and find out where that number 72 Lamborghini has gone. Whilst we were riding on board then,
We did see it have a problem on the starting grid. It was slow to pull away. It looked like it was a turn it off and turn it on and it's okay, but it seems strange that it had a problem pulling away from the grid and it's boxed so early. There's no way that strategy, obviously no one can pit before 60 minutes, so that's an extra stop. So yeah, I think us talking about his championship has really, really cursed it for him, unfortunately. Yeah, it'd be interesting if we can see in the pit lane what the problem is, if the Barwell guys are working on the car or it was gone out straight away.
you couldn't script it, could you, for Barwell? This, everything that can go wrong in the second half of the season seems to go wrong. This is the car, remember, that won both races at Snetterton. It was the first time in a long time that the same car had won 2 races in the same day, and they were never out of the top 4, in fact, in the first 4 races. We're hearing it was a 10-second stop-go penalty for the 72 car because the mechanics were working on the car after they should have left the grid, which they had to because the car wasn't going to move if they didn't. I suppose a 10-second penalty was better than a non-start, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, with 3 minutes to go, no one can work on the cars. We see Balf and Igo going battle to battle. Balf's got great pace to catch Igo up at that rate, and I think he's got down the inside of him, and this is really the battle of the brave. Intro Rouge. So Igo's got the first inside, but I'd rather be Balf on this instance and have the main inside for the right-hander. As they still stay side by side, and Balf was on the inside, and then Igo managed to carry the speed. They were almost a bit too polite, as we see Parfit benefit from all of that and could go from third to first in this battle. Very clean racing by both of them, but actually I think they were both a bit too polite. It was after you, no, after you, please.
But I suppose if there's a corner where you don't want to mess around, it's Eau Rouge, isn't it? Oh, Balf again up the inside, but couldn't quite make that one work. But yeah, the last thing you want to do is make contact at that particular part of the circuit, because not only is it a dauntingly quick corner, but part of what makes it so daunting is there isn't much runoff area, really. Not like Blanchimont at the end of the lap, where there is a bit of room to go if you get it wrong. At Eau Rouge, you're straight into a tyre wall, pretty much head on, and still Sean Balf, having now lost a position, of course, to Rick Parfit, as they both have, has not been able to find a way past the WPI Lamborghini, which is now the highest running Lamborghini in the race. And we've seen that a few times, actually, recently, the WPI car running really strongly. So that now puts them Parfit into sixth position by my reckoning. Then is that because for some reason our timing screen is refusing to acknowledge the existence of the Optimum Motorsport car, which I assure you is still leading the race, with Ian Longy second, Ryan Ratcliffe third, and Graham Davidson fourth. And then Parfit into 5th place now, with Igo 6th and Sean Balf in 7th position. GT4, it's still Dillane from hand, and that gap is still around 3 seconds, so you're not missing too much in GT4 at the moment. But we'll look at them anyway, because they're still very close together, and those TF Sport cars rather do attract your attention, don't they? And this is about the best we've seen out of TF Sport, really, in GT4. They had a torrid start to the season in both of their categories. The highest placed of the TF cars is the 97, the Ash Hand and Tom Canning car. They're 5th in the championship on 57.5 points, so that's about 30-ish points, 33 points, I think, off the championship leaders. So they're not completely out of it yet, but they really could do with a podium here, and therefore the support of their teammate maybe to help that to come to fruition. Sean Balf then. Where is the McLaren stronger than the Lamborghini, do we think? That he had a better exit there from the bus stop chicane, but there's no room on the inside at La Source. If you were in Sean Balf's, well, never mind, because he's got right around the outside of Michael Igo. I suppose that is always a valid option, isn't it? Surprise the driver in front with a move they're not expecting. Yeah,
Igo's had to do the right thing, cover the inside, but Sean's got the confidence and the speed just to go all the way around the outside there. So although he's had to go a greater distance, meterage-wise, he's obviously been able to carry the speed all the way around that radius of Eau Rouge and carry it through. As we see the Balf guys go crazy for that move. It's nice to see how much they supported that from their team owner and AM driver.
It is a bit warm out there. They're probably conserving their energy for the important matter of the pit stop in about 40 minutes or so. Here's a replay of some Graham and Mark Farmer activity as he tries to go around the outside of Richard Neary, who is not going to stop for the corner. And Mark Farmer, who couldn't buy some good luck this year, no matter how much money he had. And unfortunately, well, what's your take on this one, Joe?
From the front, look, racing instant-wise, I think Mark's got the confidence to go around the outside as he did to Ballon early in the race. From there, it does look like Neary's running deep. Didn't really leave Farmer anywhere else to go. If we could see a little bit more from Neary's point of view as we see a McLaren door up.
Is that the unique McLaren air conditioning unit at work there?
Yeah, that's the side DRS system that we've been working back at base. Luckily, it looks like the air pressure will force it back down. So I actually don't know what the race director will do with that in terms of a mechanical failure flag. If it builds up enough speed to latch itself as we see it box, and that's the Academy car that they're actually swapped from the Aston Martin, which had a big crash at the European GT4 race in Zandvoort, and they've jumped into McLaren for the weekend, so they're going to have to hopefully just slam that close, and the catch might have just been ajar as they left the grid potentially, I guess.
There is damage to the front left corner as well, which I don't think is related to that, but it's had a hard opening stint of this race then, has that car, which is not our first early unscheduled pick visitor. The GT4 second placed battle then makes its way down the hill. James Dillane, though, is being caught by this group, despite the fact they're fighting each other. They were a few tenths quicker than the race leader on the previous lap, being spurred on, of course, by the chasing Tolman car in fourth position, sort of trying to push these TF Sport cars along. Scott Maxwell not quite able to go with them. And my timing screen is working now. Thank you very much for whoever suggested a way of sorting that out, because Ollie Wilkinson now does exist, and I can tell you he's 1.1 seconds clear of Ian Loggett at the head of the field. Yeah,
that was it. enduranceandgt.co.uk on Twitter. British GT have had the marvellous idea of anyone that's got a question while they're watching the coverage can tweet into me at Osborne Joe with anything you want. Yeah, any questions, fire away. We'll try and answer them as best we can. We've already had one from James Atkinson saying, should we have a longer race at a longer track? It's not a bad track to do it at. I think we'll see at the end of 2 hours if anyone fancies they could have done a bit longer. I think normally 2 hours, I'm a little bit tired and ready for bed.
Well, likewise, but if you do fancy the idea of a long distance race at Spa, they can cater for that next week, because it is the Spa 24 hours next week, which many of these drivers will be competing in.
Interesting fact about Spa 24 hours, actually. The first one, 1921, when the circuit first opened, only had one car entered, so they cancelled the race.
Oh, really?
Next week we have 71 cars on the grid, so that shows you the strength of modern GT racing at the moment.
Well, and the GT3 category, bear in mind they are all GT3 cars as well, which is remarkable, and what a spectacle that will be. The GT4 cars provide us with plenty of entertainment as well, thankfully, and that's one thing I do love about the British GT Championship, is the mix of classes. Drivers sometimes get frustrated at the mix of classes and having to deal with back markers, but it does provide some very lively racing.
Yeah, and we're seeing Jordan Collard here in fourth actually drive very mature, which I'm surprised at for him. I know Jordan well out the car, but he's doing exactly everything right here. Those two Astons are kind of messing up their own performance, I think, at the moment, as we see him trying to have a look, as we see actually that second one has dropped back a little bit now. So Jordan needs to save everything up and try and get past them and split them. He's done 20 minutes behind him now, so he should know where his strengths are versus the Aston Martin, and see where he can get them. The interesting thing in GT4 is they're a bit more road car based. So actually this circuit here at Spa, because so much it's full throttle, some of them struggle to make the fuel, as we see Jordan go all the way around. That's how good I am at coaching. Little word in his ear and he's done it within 2 corners. So Jordan's now potentially maybe got slightly better conditioned tyres, because he's been parked up behind that Aston, not pushing 100%. He might be able to now reel in Ash Hand, and then even James Dillane and his teammates. So this battle over the next 30 minutes or so is really going to interest, and I think it's going to flow well.
McLaren have a good history here at the Spa round of the British GT Championship. In fact, it was a McLaren that won the first ever British GT race at Spa back in 1998, when Tim Sugden and Steve O'Rourke's McLaren F1 GT1 was victorious, and those were the days, eh? The grid now a little larger, but those cars were very spectacular, and used to go well here at Spa, so it turned out. Bentleys tend to go quite well here as well, and indeed Rick Parford is setting some good lap times at the moment then, but is in 10th position now, according to... he's just been in the pit lane, I believe, probably for a penalty. Let's see what race control are telling us. This there's no notification of a penalty, but we did see him have that contact, didn't we, with Sam Dahan at the start of the race. So I reckon he's been in to serve a penalty and dropped down into 10th position. So the order then is Ollie Wilkinson leading, number 96, number 16 Log is second. 43 is in the pit lane, unfortunately, though. That's the sister car to the car that started on pole position, Andrew Gordon-Colebrook in. It's had contact there, Joe. What might that have damaged? I suppose there's any number of things that could break in the front corner. Yeah, with the boys under the car like that, it's most probably a steering arm. So what controls from the steering wheel to the steering rack to the wheel, essentially, could be bent.
Normally that's on the lower part of the wishbone. So yeah, it's not a quick change on any car, especially in a 2-hour sprint race. That's going to be impossible to get near that time back, as we see the sister car, which was on pole position, which is obviously very quick in those mixed conditions, but maybe not so much in these dry conditions. We see Kelvin Fletcher and the Beach Team Aston really harrying him. I mean, Kelvin Fletcher's performances this year as an amateur driver have just been absolutely amazing. So from silver screen to bronze driver, he's had a good transition there, and he's loving his racing. More importantly, that someone who's not doing it full time can come into a level like British GT and be so competitive.
Yeah, he used to be an actor that did a bit of racing, and now he's a racing driver that does a bit of acting on the side, and he's become a very, very handy peddler, one of the quickest AM drivers in GT4, and in a GT4 field that's made up predominantly of silver entries as well. So he's regularly up against drivers that in theory should be quicker than him, but that doesn't often seem to be the case. And indeed, the BMW in front of him, number 52, being driven by Jacob Matthias at the moment, he is a silver graded driver, and Kelvin looks the quicker of the two at the moment. Now, they're in different cars, of course they are, but Kelvin nonetheless really impressing here. He's leading the Pro-Am Championship in GT4 as well, is Kelvin Fletcher with Martin Plough and his teammate. And Kelvin is everything you want really out of an AM driver, isn't he? He's quick, yes, but he rarely makes mistakes. He rarely brings the car in bent and damaged. He hands over in a decent position then for Martin to finish the job in the second stint. Yeah, definitely. He's actually a really, really nice guy as well. As my first meeting was actually shouting at him when he blocked me in a qualifying lap a few years ago, and he couldn't have been any more apologetic, and actually we've been relatively good friends since then. But he's a great guy out of the car as well. And yeah, as you said, those amateurs just need to be mistake-free. We see so often, especially in GT3, cars a bit harder to drive, a bit faster. As soon as you make a big mistake, a spin, that's your day over, really. So you need to find that right level of aggression and pace, and it's a happy medium between the two. And I think one of the Lamborghinis are on board. I think this is Ballon now, fighting his way back. He's caught the first of the Century cars back there, and yeah, he's got a long day to get himself all the way back up to where he needs to be. And it's easy to get a bit demoralised now, isn't it, really? But he can still salvage a decent result out of this race. This is for 12th position at the moment, and it looks like that was a fairly easy move made. I don't think that JM Lippmann fought that one particularly hard, and so through goes the Lamborghini then into 12th position now for Adam Ballon, as here back to Kelvin Fletcher, who is really starting to get busy now as he tries to find a way past the 42 machine then. This is for 8th position in GT4, but he might be about to lose 9th position, because around the outside is coming the number 62 car. That's Alex Toth-Jones. The outside line of Blanchimont is not necessarily a place I'd like to be, but then they're also being joined by another Aston Martin, that of Jack Butel now, the 35 car. So it's very Aston Martin heavy here, and Butel goes right around the outside, tries to get the inside for the middle part of the final part of the bus stop chicane. Sensibly, I think, backed out of that one, but the Optimum team watching on with interest. They've got a car leading the race in GT3, and they've got cars right in the thick of the battle throughout their GT4 race as well. But it does look as though Kelvin Fletcher's being held up here, and the sooner he can get through, the better. He's in a precarious position at the moment, though, because he is rather getting backed up into the other Aston Martin. So the temptation is to say, well, if I can get past this BMW, I'll be safe. But getting past the BMW isn't necessarily going to be that safe to do, so he has to be patient and pick his moments, which I'm sure is easier to do, easier said than done. Yeah, I'd actually, as the BMW, I wouldn't be worried too much about Fletcher. Obviously, silver for the BMW, and then the Pro-Am entry. So the silver's got a pit stop penalty anyway that would put them behind after the stop. So if he's losing any time defending to Fletcher, then he's just losing out to the silver Astons behind him anyway, time-wise. So it looks like he's been fighting it for 3 or 4 laps, and you always want to try and stop the tide as much as you can, but unfortunately a lot of it, as we see into Loiseau's hairpin, Graham Johnson following Ratcliffe through, as Murphy was probably unsighted, I would say there, and I would put that down as a racing incident. Great opportunistic move from Johnson, using the GT3 as his door wedge, and I would say Murphy was probably unsighted by him, and both continued swap of position, but I would say fair in my uneducated opinion. No, I think you know more than most about these matters, and yeah, I tend to agree with that. No real harm done in the end. Kelvin Fletcher still cannot get this position away, but of course that means the GT3 leaders will not be a million miles behind that little group now, and that could provide the shuffle of the order that he needs. back to the GT3 category then for a moment, and specifically Sam Dillane, who has caught Rick Parfitt now.
That's a good bit of racing karma, isn't it? Not saying Rick did it intentionally, but the penalty that was dished out to Rick for the contact on Sam Dillane has left him on the same bit of track, maybe in the slight wrong order, but at least there was no clear advantage for firing Dillane off there. And these guys now can do battle for 30 minutes. It'll be interesting to know Rick's mentality on there, because I wonder if he thinks he was at fault for the contact, and whether he should almost let Dillane go for a bit of good karma. And we're starting to get some track limit warnings now. So like I mentioned earlier, FIA limit, so as long as you've got one wheel on the tarmac/white line, that's legal. But there's many places at Spa where going more than that is beneficial to your lap time. So top of Eau Rouge, we'll see from the camera guys trying to cut that margin as close as they can, and then entry to Blanchimont and exit at Blanchimont. There's so much time there, and although you're going a further distance in terms of Blanchimont, it's just the speed you can carry obviously works out as an average, and then Eau Rouge you're just going a shorter distance and you're going faster, so, and you carry it all the way down the Kemmel Straight. So in testing, when I'm seeing what's possible, there's easily 5 or 6 tenths at each of those corners. So if you add those up a second, that is definitely worth having if you're getting away with it.
Well, Rick Parfitt not getting away with it because he's being warned for exceeding track limits, I think, at Blanchimont, and we have a slow Audi that I think has spun. Now this is the 29 car, the Stellar Performance car of Richard Williams, and it's crawling now. This looks like it's maybe a problem rather than a spin.
Yeah, no puncher. So
Crabbing,
it looks,
is it?
yeah, the rear left didn't look so happy in terms of its alignment, which would suggest some contact side to side somewhere. If he's going there, it's most probably been the bus stop chicane would be my guess. And if it's his left side, he might have been overtaking someone. As we now see this GT3, GT4 mash-up happen, and this is where it gets so busy and so hard for every driver out there to judge what the other car's going to do, not lose any time, not have any contacts. And Fletcher's gone all the way around the outside of Loggy there, and will now have the inside for No Name, so Loggy will probably be behind him for a little longer now. He's got past him now, so he's trying to position the car in a place that's obvious for the guy overtaking what you want from him, but also not losing any time to your rivals in class. And there's no perfect lap with traffic, but there's better ones and there's worse ones for sure.
Ian Loggy needs to get a move on, really, because Ryan Ratcliffe is now closing in on him. That gap was 1.6 seconds at the start of the lap, so you can see easily there how you can lose big chunks of time through no fault of your own, really. If you just catch a pack of GT4 cars at a tricky part of the circuit to overtake them, as Ian Loggy just did, then you can sometimes find yourself losing seconds at a time. And that can be so frustrating. You sort of, I guess, have to have some faith that that's going to come back to you, and these things do tend to ebb and flow, but at the time it's so tempting, isn't it, to just stick it down the inside and go for it, but that can be the end of your race.
Yeah, exactly, and all the cars have a delta time, which is a display which is saying if you're up or down on your fastest lap, and obviously when you get traffic that goes one way and it goes south so quickly, and you just know there's no way to get that time back. And I'm not clever enough to add up every lap that I lose, but you know, if you lost us 2 seconds a lap before and 3 seconds this lap, you're 5 seconds down already, and before you know it, 30 seconds has evaporated, and that can be the difference between first and 8th, 9th place for British GT results. So it's hugely important. It's so hard, as I said earlier, it's not a right or a wrong. The only wrong is when you make contact and the car's out. So it's very hard, and you'll see the more experienced guys, the pros, when they get in the second half, being a bit more decisive. I wouldn't say they're any more aggressive, but when you read the body language of the car, you can see what their intent is. Sometimes the like we saw earlier with Balf and Igo, it's almost too polite. It's hard to read what they want from each other, whereas if you're black or white, it's a bit easier. As we see Fletcher finally get the move done. That's a bit more like it. That was a big whistle as well. And it looks like there's going to be a slipstream from Toff Jones as well. So this battle's been raging for the last 20 minutes. It's brilliant. I
know. The trouble is, when you run side by side into Eau Rouge, you're so slow off the top of Radion that the cars behind get a real run on you. I don't think Toff Jones will get both of them, but he might be able to go around the outside of the 62 car, maybe. Yes, he does. And here also comes Jack Butel. So 3 places lost. That is always the case, isn't it? Once you lose one, you open the floodgates and they all sense your weakness and come diving through as well. So sensible driving, though, from all. They avoided any significant issues there. Incident between cars 20 and 52, no further action. I don't know whether we've seen the incident between cars 20. Oh, it was the contact at last source, wasn't it, with Graham Johnson and Mark Murphy. So no penalty for that, as you suggested would be the case. race.
Yeah, as you see, Bradley Ayres on the pit wall with his engineer Everett, and so Brad's got a lot of pressure, unfortunately. Ollie's obviously leading the race, got a relatively good gap, but Brad's got to get in and race against all the other pros, which he will do easily, but he has 30 kilos extra to lug around with him. So it's going to be difficult for him. He is praying not to have a safety car, basically, and Ollie for him to try and build his lead up as much as he can. Another question from former British GT racer, only missing this round, I think, Andrew Howard, was asking, when was the last safety car in a Spa race? Do you know?
Oh, I don't, you know, I'll have to, I know someone who will though. Tom Hornsby, I'm sure, will be on the phone any moment letting us know, but it's been a while, I think, hasn't it? Yeah. It's one of those circuits where I guess if you go off, there tends to be a runoff area to catch you and live snatch vehicles maybe to pull you out of the way. Yeah,
I mean, a safety car definitely would liven it up, but like we said earlier, the silver entries always pray for no safety car because of their weight penalty to the Pro-Am. They need their silver, who is competing against the bronze in this first stint, to be able to have an unimpeded stint.
Yeah, absolutely. Safety cars can really turn the races on their heads, and we've seen that before, but perhaps not all that often here at Spa. So the race leader then is still Ollie Wilkinson, 3.4 seconds clear of Ian Logie, who's 1.2 ahead of Ryan Ratcliffe. That's all been fairly static at the front. Graham Davidson, having cruised up to the back of them, has now dropped back a bit. He's 5 seconds behind Ryan Ratcliffe at the moment, and the second of the Pro-Am entries in GT3. Then it's Sean Balfe in the number 22 McLaren that is in 5th position. Michael Igoe is 6th, just behind the car that we're watching, or actually I say just behind. There are some 17.9 seconds between them now. And they were together, what, 15 minutes ago or so it's been an impressive part of the stint, this for Sean Balfe. Dominic Paul 7th, Richard Neary 8th, Mark Farmer 9th despite the spin, and Rick Parfitt 10th despite the penalties. So that's sort of the head of Class B, as we dubbed it at Donington last time. Those that have problems early on, which always seems to be the case, are sort of left fighting to be best of the rest, and that is Ballon, is it not?
Into the bus stop.
And there's a lot of tyre smoke. He's had a spin, I think, coming out of Blanchimont. Either that or the engine's blown, but that is the championship leading car out of the race. This is
possible
complete drama, and yeah, almost certainly a full course yellow or a safety car for this. Now, the pit lane window does not open for another 20-odd minutes, so we're not going to see anyone dive into the pit lane, but this will have an effect on strategy.
Possibly a bit of contact to the wall on the inside. I don't know if it's him or the previous one. Yeah, that's...
I think it's both the engine and an accident, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's definitely spun on the exit. I don't know why. It's obviously nerfed the front right and then the rear of the car. It, to me, looks like he could get going, which he does, but the radiator there is leaking. So that's his race done. It will prevent a safety car, luckily for those silver. But yeah, the radiator's completely done there. As he's hit the wall, what would have happened is all that bodywork has been forced back, and the radiator is so turning in. Looks okay at the moment. Just loses at the apex. That is a scary spin without stating the obvious. But from the outside, I think Phil Keane, his co-driver, will try and analyse that and say what went wrong. But from just the onboard, couldn't really say anything. Turn-in was nice, didn't look like he hit the apex curb. And the rear just went boom, just so quickly. There's no way he's ever going to catch it. And that's obviously led to the long spin, but that car's done for the day. They won't be able to repair that. As I said, the bodywork gets pushed back and it will crack the radiator. There's none of that putting an egg in it and all that stuff your granddad teaches you. That will be a big crack, and under that much pressure, when the radiator's hot, it will just be absolutely streaming out. There's no way to fix that quickly.
So, nil point then for Barwell as far as the 72 car is concerned. Now, the 69 was on 95.5 points coming into this weekend, which is, what did I say that was, about 8.5 points adrift. So, to score 8.5 points, which in this case would mean finishing 7th place, that would put them in the championship lead, 69. Now, 69 at the moment are 11th, though. So this again continues to swing in the favour of the 47 Aston Martin of TF Sport, which still is solidly running in 4th place. Whilst that's been going on, meanwhile, I can see on the timing screen we've had a change for 2nd position. Ryan Ratcliffe somewhere has got past Ian Logie. Not entirely sure where that's happened. We'll try and pick up on it in a moment. But we have had a change, which means that the two silver cars now are both at the front of the field.
Yeah, it's been a great last 10 minutes, I would say, from Ryan's. Really picked up a bit of pace and was catching Logie anyway, so then to do him is great, and we can see it's still quite close on track. But no, I'll be interested to see if Ryan will start to catch Wilkinson. As you said, both silvers. Be interested to see how their tyres are going off with that extra 30 kilos of ballast. One thing, I think it will be okay, but where Ballon's coming to the pit lane with all that fluid leaking, it's obviously pretty slippy, the coolant stuff. So potentially, as we see, 3 wide with Neri trying to go around the outside there. And the Mustang did the right thing and didn't want to be anywhere near those two, and was leaving them to their own devices. And they all kind of get through safely with a bit of bodywork damage for Neri, maybe a front dive plane. But I just wonder, in 20 minutes' time, when we see the pit window open, will any of that fluid be left? And Spa pit entry is so tight. It is one line, it's 2 concrete walls either side, so there's no room for error there. So if I was a team manager, I'd be warning my co-drivers, have a look on the way in, just to make sure it's fully dry. I don't want to curse anything, because a pile up there will be pretty catastrophic for the race.
We've seen it happen before, though, in some tight pit lane entries without the assistance of radiator coolant. There's a close-up look at what the front end of a Lamborghini is not supposed to look like, but what it does look like after a meeting with a concrete wall coming out of one of the fastest corners on the circuit. And as you said, that was a slightly bizarre moment. Sometimes when you're midway through a corner like that, if you do lift or dab the brakes or something and transfer all that weight onto the nose, that can create a spin, but they've been lifting there anyway, so it would seem odd that that's what caused it, but clearly something went pretty majorly wrong.
Oh, definitely correct, and I'm learning stuff from you. This is all good for my racing. As we see, Loggy spun out the source.
From 3rd position this is, so Graham Davidson will go through and gain more points, crucially.
Horrible place to be stopped, especially as a left-hand drive car. Your vision's pretty poor, so there'll be a marshal on the inside, hopefully directing him when it's clear. Just a bit of unburnt fuel in the exhaust as he fires it up back into gear. Strange to be in neutral in that position, unless he's just dipped the clutch to try and save the engine, but looks like he's on his merry way. Be interesting to see how he got there, if it was aided, which I'd probably say it's got to be at that sort of point in the corner. Very hard to lose a GT3 car at slow speed. The traction control systems are so good, stops the rear wheels from lighting up. But as you said, a lift at a high-speed corner back to balance point can unsettle the car. If you kind of imagine you're driving a car, everything's nice and thing, you put a big input, it suddenly feels very bad. And I think we have Adam Ballon down in the pit lane with Andy J.
Yes, Adam's with me. I've had to have a little chat to him about the language you use, because he's rightly a little aggrieved at what's happened. Adam, you're cross, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm really pissed off with myself. Everyone else did everything right, but I didn't.
I mean, we just had a word about the language, didn't we? So apologies for that.
Sorry, I didn't even think that was terrible language. Slightly annoyed, slightly irritated, we all are. I am.
Highly frustrated. No, you're cross with yourself, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a complete disaster for the championship, because you had a very strong position anyway.
Yeah, but it's not about the championship for me. I wanted to have a good showing here. It's a great circuit. We've done a fair bit of testing here, and it's just a really disappointing way to crash out, quite literally.
Just talk us through what happened in your mind.
Well, I was going through Blanchiment, and I was full on it, and I think I just had a slightly too much lock on at the exit. Car spun. Luckily, it went down along the track, had a little bit of a love tap on the inside wall. Could have been a lot worse, I suppose, when I look back. I think that was going pretty fast backwards.
Yeah, well, you're safe. The car's easily fixed. It could be worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. Disappointed, though.
Take care. Cheers for talking to us. Appreciate it.
Well, Adam Ballon, we can understand his frustration, I'm sure, because I know he says that he's not thinking about the championship, but I'm sure that it's crossed his mind, all of those nice championship points that he's losing, not to the sister car, but to this car. This is the car that is running now in 3rd position, so if it finishes there, which it may not, because we've still got over an hour to go, but if it finishes 3rd, it will score 22.5 points, which will move it right into contention, not quite into the points lead, but right onto the tail now of the points leading Lamborghini. There's a Porsche there with some damage, which is the G-Cut racing car, which Joe has just spotted. Front end damage on a Porsche is usually fairly catastrophic, but I think they've got away with just bodywork damage, haven't they?
Yeah, the new generation car, they've learned from having the radiators in the worst possible place is not a good idea, so they have put a bit more inboard behind the rear, just in front of the rear wheel, sorry. But I don't know if he's going to be able to continue with that, because if that bit of bodywork came off, I'm trying to work out what it is. It looks like it's a diffuser off another car to me. It doesn't look like it's its own bodywork. So it's obviously got Hungary. Maybe it's its front bumper that's peeled back. That's a lot of carbon fibre. To me, if I was to put money on it, that's either a Mercedes or a Lamborghini rear diffuser. So if we can find a rear of one of those two models of cars, that would be where I put my money.
looking at where he is at the moment, he's just been lapped by Ballon and Parfit, which means that a few laps ago he was probably lapped by Ian Logie, who had a spin at the first corner. Yeah. I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but maybe, just maybe, that's where it came from.
By damn it, Holmes, I think you've got it. I don't know if it's intentional, but as he was running down the old pit wall into Eau Rouge, he actually rubbed the wall with that bit of bodywork. And if he did that on purpose to dislodge it, then that is absolute genius, because I think that might solve the problem of him getting a mechanical failure flag. So we'll see if it has dislodged us. We see the GT4 battle has been put on its head a little bit since we last saw. Collard has continued his pace and he's catching Dillane now, and he's cleared Ashand in the other TF car. We know that 43 BMW's out of contention. That was the car we had in the pits having some suspension work doing. So hopefully he gets the message and gets out of the way and doesn't disrupt this battle, because he's obviously not part of it. As Collard is going to wear out that headlight flasher stalk anytime soon.
We've seen this again happen in the past as well, where GT4 cars that are a lap down on other GT4 cars don't necessarily get the message, but I think the message is being passed on loud and clear here, isn't it, by Jordan Collard, by the flashing of the lights and good driving there. The 43 BMW gets well out of the way and allows this podium fight then in GT4 to continue. And that answers my question as to which of the Prios will be on track. They'll both be on track together in their separate cars. How are the two Multimatic cars getting on? Well, Scott Maxwell, the car that's Seb Prio the junior, will take over. He's running 5th at the moment in GT4. The 19 car with Sir Chris Hoy at the wheel is running 34th overall, which in about half an hour I'll be able to add up and work out where that is in GT4, but it's outside of the top 15 or so. But when Andy Prio gets into the car, we know he's one of the fastest drivers here this weekend.
Yeah, I wonder what a collective noun of Prios is, if it's Prios or... yeah, that's going to be an interesting battle between those two. As you said, potentially it's going to be Andy catching Seb with where their teammates handle the car over to him, so that could get quite awkward at the dinner table on Sunday night.
Especially since the 15 car has a 20-second success penalty to serve for winning last time out at Donington Park. We haven't mentioned the pit stop penalties yet. We'll get to it in a minute there. What have you spotted on the Ram Racing
Just
car?
want to see if it was the rear of that car that did get eaten by the Porsche or not. I think you're probably right with adding all the bits of the puzzle together. That's what happened and why Logie spun. And we see Collard still flashing. Flashing a teammate is the lowest of lows. If I was Dillane now, I'd be flashing my rain light back in just at him. The flashing of the headlights, sorry, is a strange one. In the car, it feels like the best idea possible, but then when you see it in the cold light of day, you realise it actually does nothing apart from probably distract yourself. Than that, it's a signal of intent, but apart from that, really.
Right, okay, so I've always wondered whether that does actually distract the driver in front, but it would appear possibly not. So, yes, the two Tolman cars then, running nose to tail. And Tom Hornsby, as I thought, would have the answer for Andrew Howe. The last safety car apparently at Spa was last year, which I'd already forgotten.
And I was in the race, so I probably should have remembered.
You didn't cause it though, did you?
I don't think so. I've got a bad memory, but no, I think unfortunately my car retired actually before I got in it, so it definitely wasn't anything to do with me. I was ordering my way back to Brussels with a portion of fries and mayonnaise as we see Logie carving his way through the GT4s, and yeah, there's missing a bit of the rear left there, so I'm glad we've solved the case. It makes me feel quite good that I've actually worked something out. If only I could have done that at school, probably would have got some better grades.
You and me both. Well, we're putting it to good use now anyway. Not that it particularly helps Ian Logie, because I think he's already fully aware of how he ended up pointing the wrong way at La Source, and he'll also no doubt be aware of the fact that he's dropped him down to 5th position now, and quite some way off the race leaders who have already come through to finish the lap. There is Scott Maxwell, by the way, the championship leading GT4 Ford Mustang. I was about to make the point about success penalties. So the top 3 finishers from the previous race in both GT3 and GT4 have to serve extra time in their pit stop. So in GT3, the winners last time out were the 47 Aston Martin. So it's been even more vital, therefore, for Graham Davidson that he's been able to put in this really impressive first stint, because he's going to lose at least 20 seconds at the pit stop. The 22 McLaren of Bolt Motorsport will have to serve 15 extra seconds in the pit lane, and the Barwell 69 car, as if their day wasn't going badly enough already, are down in 10th place, and they will serve 10 extra seconds in the pit stops. In GT4, the 15 Mustang of Maxwell and Prio will serve 20. The 57 HHC McLaren, which is running some way down the order, will serve 15 extra seconds. And the number 5 car, perhaps most significantly, the car then that is currently second in GT4, will have to serve 10 extra seconds compared to those around it.
Yeah, and that's a lot of work as we see Sam de Haan cut the top of Eau Rouge, slightly illegal without doubling him in, but he's got a lot of fight. And we see a Porsche come in, actually ties in well with a question from Paddy's Motorsport about what happens with bodywork damage. We obviously see a lot of duct tape being thrown on it, and who says it's okay? Well, there's a championship scrutineer, John Crook, which is a rather ironic name for someone checking the legality of stuff, and he will be near the teams and he will say if it's okay to go yay or nay, if he deems it safe enough to rejoin the circuit, as we see Neri on the defensive into Brussels corner there.
The reason the Porsche is in the pit lane is not for a mandatory stop, and it's not even to fix the bodywork damage. It's because it's been handed a stop-go penalty for causing a collision at turn 1, which we think we've now narrowed down to being the Ram Racing Mercedes that was on the receiving end. So they can't actually work on the car during that penalty either, so they'll have to leave that loose bodywork until it makes its actual pit stop, which can be any time from about 11.5 minutes from now. The first driver must do at least 60 minutes of the race, and we are coming up to about 49 minutes into this fantastic 7th round of the British GT Championship. This is the fight for 8th position then. We're on board with Richard Neri in the Mercedes, chasing down Mark Farmer, and right behind him Sam de Haan has a look at the inside. That's not really a place we see an awful lot of overtaking. Rick Parfitt is only a couple of seconds behind this group, and not far in front of them is Dominic Paul in the BMW. So we've got most of the GT3 field here bunching themselves together. The GT4 Century car says, I'm out of here, and almost needs to buy a ticket to get back into the circuit. So far into the runoff area was he to get out of the GT3 car's way. This is a fantastic battle, and again, a great mix of manufacturers. We've got a BMW just up the road, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Lamborghini, the Bentley catching them. This is why we love GT3 racing.
Yeah, and this is British GT. It's so great for a domestic series. We see Parfitt going a little bit deep there. And the SRO group do such a fabulous job of bringing this championship here, but policing it to a level where it's fair. There's been championships in the past where there's not only cheating, but unscrupulous behaviour from the driving front, which detracts from it. And all of these guys, honestly, when they wake up Monday morning, wherever they finish, know it's because they deserve that position, nothing else. There's always going to be swings and roundabouts, as we see de Haan pretty aggressive. Neri's not one to back out as well, as he just backs out, and de Haan is all the way through, and as they go through Eau Rouge, Neri will just lose a bit of downforce off the back of de Haan's car, and I think we're going to see de Haan probably get a track limits warning soon. You can see how much that was worth cutting the top there, and Eau Rouge is, when you see it on board, it's such an, it's like threading a needle, wearing oven gloves, and you've had 5 too many drinks already and you're sneezing. It's so hard to do right, and it's so much fun and rewarding when you do get it, and it's so important for the lap because the straight that follows it, you carry all that speed for the next 600-700 metres.
In fairness, I think Richard Neri had little choice but to back off. If he hadn't have done, I think that Sam de Haan was going to join him in the passenger seat, because he was clearly asserting his authority there as they dropped down past the old pit straight. This looks like 2 TF Sport Aston Martins at play, and costing the 2-car a position there, because Sam de Haan nice and neatly nips up the inside there, because the GT4 TF Sport car wasn't exactly leaping out of Mark Farmer's way. So Farmer drops down into 9th place, but this is 2 positions gained on this lap by Sam de Haan. This is the kind of feisty driving we need to see from Sam, really. He's working his way steadily up into the points. With the penalty the 47 car will have to serve, it will spend 10 extra seconds compared to the 69 car in the pit lane, so that will further narrow the gap. So this might not actually be a completely hopeless task here for the 69 machine. They might yet be able to, well, probably come away with the points lead after this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. I think the hard thing is when the pros get in, there's very little difference. We see seconds being lost with the AMs. Like I said, the professionals with traffic are a lot more decisive, and there won't be that variance. And potentially for Johnny Cocker to have 45 seconds plus to try and catch Johnny Adam, who's probably Mr. British GT, that is a very mean feat. But yeah, if Sam de Haan can do some of the work now to close the deficit, as we see track limits getting more and more liberal towards the end of the stint, tyres going off, drivers going off, we start to see Michael I go. Yeah, that was good timing. It's very tight to get round there, so he's had to lose so much time, and he'll even lose time all the way now into La Source, as we see he tries to go around the outside the GT4.
Oh, leaders.
Yeah, that was threading the needle with oven gloves on, and he must have been on the brakes so hard to lock the tyres up. The ABS in this car, again, like the tractor control, so good, he must have been praying for his life. Where we go through all the way through to Eau Rouge now, as we see more side to side, and Neary does what Dillane did to him the lap before. So monkey see, monkey do there obviously works, and he's got the position. I think poor Mark Farmer was probably a little bit worried what was going to be going on there.
It's been a decent stint, this Farmer. Bear in mind he was pointing the wrong way about 15 minutes into it. He's actually done quite a good job to fight his way back up to this group, but now he's about to lose another place there. That looked as though Rick Parfitt was alongside him. So things not going quite as well at the moment for Mark, unfortunately. Let's see how that worked out. Basically, the entire GT3 field have got themselves together with the GT4 race leaders, the 4 and 5 McLarens, right with them. So this is what happened down at La Source. After Igo's spin, we're going to see some contact here, I believe. Farmer, oh yeah, rattles into the side of the number 18 car. Again, trying to take full advantage of the fact that Igo had just been off the road and was maybe a bit rattled. There was definitely a gap there for Farmer, and made the move. It was an aggressive move, one that I'm sure his co-driver Nicky T would have been proud of. Sadly though, a corner later, he ends up losing ground because Richard Neary gets alongside him, shovels him to the edge of the road, and Farmer actually lost 3 positions out of all of that, because back through went Igo, and Rick Parfitt was able to take advantage too. So this is a that was a very wide line there for Richard Neary. So Richard Neary then in the Mercedes has now worked his way, I reckon, into 8th position, but Sam Dillane has got himself ahead of all of them. So Sam Dillane really driving well now, into 7th place then, 8th for Neary, I reckon. And then this is the fight going on between Parfitt and Farmer for about 8th or 9th position. 9th position it'll be, because they're still behind Michael Igo, and Parfitt trying to get up the inside of James Dorlin, the GT4 leader, who was going to leave in room. But again, that's back to what you were saying, Joe, about the AM drivers not being quite as decisive maybe in the traffic.
Yeah, he kind of did the worst of both worlds there, unfortunately, Rick. He showed his nose, so the GT4 leaves the gap, but then doesn't act on it, so they both lose out. A pro, I think, in that situation, either shows his nose and overtakes, as we see. I think that Porsche, has that just been spun round, or has he kept it? There was a Porsche somewhere in the middle of that mix, and I think the TF Aston might have just helped turn him around.
Yes, you're right. Well spotted. So it's been an eventful day for Seamus Jennings so far. His stint is nearly over, but he was on the receiving end, it would seem, this time of some contact, and we may be able to catch a replay of that. We'll see what we can do for you. But the Porsche, great to have Porsche back in the championship in GT3, even if it is just an all-AM driver entry. A few people have been asking why that car isn't mixing it right at the front. Well, that's why. It's 2 amateur drivers, both just doing it because they enjoy it, possibly not enjoying this afternoon quite as much, but the car fires back up and thankfully gets back on its way. There it is, going slowly. Has it got a puncture or some suspension damage, mate? Oh,
looks like it's bonnet boot. I don't know what you call it on a Porsche. Boot bonnet.
The boot bonnet, yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, that's definitely in an unoptimal aerodynamic position there. So he's going to have to pit again. So he had a stop go. Now he's got to pit again. And then in about 4 minutes, he's got to pit again. So I don't know, actually, I'm not clever enough to work out, but it might be better to go slowly and enter the pit lane after the pit window opens, and it might lose him less time than boxing out, box again sort of thing. I don't know which TF car was involved with it. It was not this one, so I think it might have been Davidson. Obviously higher up the grid and lapping the Porsche, so hard to say really what car that was for sure.
Right, okay, well, we'll try and piece it together. Maybe we'll chat to Graham Davidson after his pit stop. I'm sure Andy J can be dispatched out to TF Sport, because Graham will have a few stories to tell, I think, after this stint that he's put in. This is the race leader then, Ollie Wilkinson. We haven't really seen him, and that might lead you to believe that he's leading by a country mile, but he's not actually. He's only 2.5 seconds clear of Ryan Ratcliffe, who's been doing probably his best stint of the season. He did the same sort of thing here 12 months ago, didn't he? Put in a really great defensive stint in the second half of the race on that occasion, when he was the pro driver partner Rick Parfitt at Team Park Racing, and got themselves a podium finish, and it was a real turning point for Ryan as far as his confidence was concerned last year. Another really good stint here. He's 2.5 seconds behind Wilkinson, the race leader. Graham Davidson is 1.1 seconds further back, so the top 3 are all going to be on the Kemmel Straight. In fact, Davidson is not 1.1 seconds back, because Ratcliffe has been held up in some traffic through Eau Rouge, I think, and now Graham Davidson is attacking for second place. Goes to the outside here into Les Combes. That'll be the inside into the left-hander, but Ratcliffe was always going to turn in, and the big Bentley was almost always going to win that battle as well if there were to be contact. So sensibly, Davidson again preserving this championship margin, backs out of it, but Davidson will have to serve a 20-second success penalty. He is 17 seconds ahead of Sean Balfe. So if he could get on with this and get past Ratcliffe, there is a chance actually that Davidson could come out still in a podium position. But this is Very close stuff indeed. The top 3 cars then all within 3.7 seconds of each other at the start of the lap. This is Sam de Haan gaining another position now. That's 6th place for the number 69 car. One of many drivers who are already, I think, up for the unofficial Driver of the Day award. This has been a brilliant stint from Sam to fight back. Not only has it been a good stint as far as the moves he's made and the ground he's made up, but being able to get over the disappointment of everything that went wrong on that first lap. We sort of hinted at the time, it would be very easy for him to get a bit disillusioned with the whole thing and think, well, what's the point? We're not going to score any points now. But he hasn't. He's got over that and has put in a really good drive now to get back into the top 6, which we never would have predicted 50 minutes ago.
Yeah, especially without a safety car. He's done that all on his own merit and work. And yeah, sometimes you see it in a lot of sport when people are angry. It normally goes one of 2 ways. In tennis, it always seems to go the wrong way. But I've had it in motorsport where I've been fired up for various reasons. We see the 2 Tolman DDP backed McLaren run cars. So a bit of history on this. So DDP stands for Driver Development Program. It's a program McLaren really believe in, picking young drivers to try and come through the ranks and become a factory driver, and I guess ultimately take my job one day. But we see James Dillane in the 4 car and Jordan Collard in the 5 car in battle here. And great to see them both in their first year of GT racing, leading British GT at Spa. So hopefully these guys have got a good future and we can work together without me getting fired. But yeah, going back to Sam de Haan's point, I think he would just be so fired up. It would be almost like devil may care attitude, like, well, I've got nothing to lose, so I might as well go win it or bin it. And so far, he seems to be trying to win it rather than bin it. So it's, yeah, so far, I'd say he'd probably be my my driver of the day. I don't really think anyone else has outperformed him over the stint.
If he finishes in the top 7 today, he and his teammate Johnny Cocker, they will take the championship lead by half a point if they're 7th. Of course, further up they go, the more comfortable the margin will be. So at least there is some hope here for Barwell Motorsport. Plenty of hope for Tolman Motorsport, though. This has been a really strong showing again from both of these cars. The better placed of the 2 in the championship is the number 5 car, though, which is the car that's 3rd in points in GT4, Jordan Collard and Lewis Proctor, who will take over for the 2nd stint of the race. They won back at Snetterton, but then had a retirement at the next race at Silverstone, which has cost them slightly, but they arrive here at Spa 20 points off the championship leaders, who they are ahead of. Now, what of the championship leaders? Well, Scott Maxwell is still only 5th in GT4, but only actually about 5 or so seconds behind. Replay here of Graham Davidson trying to get past Brian Ratcliffe, not able to do it on that occasion. So Team Parker Racing Bentley Continental GT3 stays ahead, and they're still... oh, here's another Bentley Continental GT3 with a TF Sport Aston Martin behind. This is Rick Parfitt and Mark Farmer, and they are scrapping for 10th position at the moment. Mark Farmer, another driver, recovering from a spin. Parfitt recovering from a penalty after he tipped the 69 Lamborghini into a spin. This, though, is all getting very tight in GT4, and it looks almost as if, and I hesitate to say this, but it does look almost as if the McLarens are holding each other up slightly now and allowing the TF Sport Aston Martin to close in behind. Yeah, and unfortunately they're most probably box this lap, so I would actually say it's fair game for Dillane to defend, because that's going to help his teammate Josh Smith be in front of Lewis Proctor as we see the first car take its scheduled pit stop. It will be thick and fast now. Everyone, I think, will stop as soon as they can. Want to get their faster pro driver in if they're Pro-Am, and also fuel round here, with it being so full throttle, there isn't really much scope to go much longer than an hour around here for most cars. They were the top 2 cars in the GT4 Championship, and they both have penalties to serve. The 15 Mustang 20 seconds and the 57 McLaren 15 seconds, because they were 1st and 2nd at Donington last time. You're absolutely right, James Dillane is defending the race lead in GT4, and why shouldn't he? They may pit this time, but of course they are silver drivers. There's no huge advantage to having one driver in the car or the other. Maybe if Collard feels he's getting held up here, he might be on the radio saying, can we pit this time and try and get the undercut done? Yeah, it could do, and I think I'd definitely want to box if I was with Collard. Tolman, I think they've got 1 fuel rig and then they use dump churns. The way the regulations are, you can only have 1 fuel rig per 2 cars. So as a team, you'd rather just box one lap and 1 the next, but from a strategy perspective, that might not be advantageous. So it's going to get busy in that pit lane, and you suddenly see 5-6 seconds evaporate if a mistake's made, and as a driver that's infuriating, because you're looking at gaining tenths of a second and suddenly you lose multiples of that, as we see something shred from the front of that Lamborghini. There was the Bentley, I think it's the grille cover of the... There's also a little bit of damage on that front left. Right. That's the dive plane. That looks very happy and
standing to attention. So as he boxes, I think that would just be either rip it off or try and fix it back down. The Balf car going through that refueling process, so 127 litre fuel tank in the McLaren, so that'll be fully topped up as we see the driver change going on. So refueling first, and then once the refueling finishes, then the tyres and driver can be changed, so not all three activities at once. Looks like used tyres going on for Brady Ellis. That's most probably his qualifying tyres, although it was a wet qualifying, so it must actually be his free practice ones, so they might have scrubbed them during warm-up, sorry. So now they've got to wait for their minimum pit stop time. So it looks like they're ready, which they are, but unfortunately, as a driver, you're just sat there waiting for the engineer with that lollipop to release you. And then obviously the pit lane needs to be clear as well, so you can't just go when it says 0. You need to make sure you're blending in to a clear pit lane and you're not going to impede anyone.
So this is the race leading car then, and we're looking forward, I think, now to a fascinating second half of the race, because we're going to have the two silver entries at the front, aren't we? Optimum and Team Parker Racing. And they'll have a decent lead over whichever of the Pro-Am cars comes out in third, because both this car and the 47 car that was fourth and third respectively have success penalties to serve. Oh, hang on, what's going on here?
Looks like they're still within their pit stop window, but it looks like they're just going with a bit of blue roll. Maybe Sean got a bit excited or something, just needs mopping up.
So that's the point I was making then. The silver car is going to have this big lead, but then it's the pro drivers that are going to be in the cars behind them, which should in theory be quicker. So it's going to be one of those typical races where they're catching, and then right at the end they probably all get together and we have a real grandstand finish. So this is again the way the regulations work, with allowing the silver entries to compete against Pro-Ams. It does all even out over the race, and it provides us with some pretty thrilling climaxes.
Yeah, and I think added to that, both Ellis in the Optimum Aston and Geddy, in the Parker Bentley are both quite robust drivers, I will say. They're very confident with knowing where their car is, so they're going to be hard to pass on top of that. So yeah, all those pros need to get past those two guys who are going to be hanging on for dear life to get on the top step of the podium. As we see Chris Hoy coming into the last chicane, makes a lovely noise, this Mustang, and he's obviously going on a little bit longer than some of the other guys, so they're not unleashing Andy Prio just yet. I wonder how long we'll stay on board, but so what you're going into here, Loiseau, so 180-degree hairpin, you're hitting the brake, staying to the left, bringing it in, and you'll see the wall on the inside. His eyes will be looking for his exit point, a little bit of oversteer. Rear tyres go off normally before the fronts in a rear-wheel drive car, just because the amount of energy they have to deal with. You can see him looking at his mirror as Sam Dehan came down the inside of him, and then through Rouge, and off you go for another 7 kilometres and 20 turns of Spa.
What a circuit it is as well, and a real thrill ride for these drivers. No wonder Chris Hoy doesn't want to come in, and actually he's getting plenty of miles under his belt this weekend, because he's also racing in the Caterham 420R Championship a bit later on today, where he was in the top 10 yesterday. The 69 car that just passed him is under investigation for an incident with car 8, which is the Team Aber Racing Mercedes. Now that could be that little shimmy they did on the run to Eau Rouge. Also under investigation, you couldn't script this, is the 47 Aston Martin for that contact with the 33. Now, of the two, maybe you'd expect the penalty to go to the 47, because that was a genuine look, from what we could see anyway, like it was, you know, a proper hit up the rear of the Porsche that sent it off the road. What is your view, though, I'm fascinated to hear, of the 69 car, because that would seem a little harsh, would it not? Yeah,
I think from what we saw, it was a bit like they were both playing Russian roulette, and it looked like, unfortunately, Neri had the bullet and Dehan got away with it. It was aggressive and not particularly nice, but I don't think anyone wants to be nice and win championships, right? So as we see a real mixture of GT3 Mercedes on GT4 on GT4 Aston and GT3 Mercedes, bits of bodywork and stickers flying off the cars. But yeah, I'd be disappointed if Dehan got a penalty for that. I think it was robust, again that word, but fair. As we see Ratcliffe box, the only right-hand drive car, which actually makes it really annoying to do a driver change because you're right next to the fuel rig. But obviously British Bentley, right-hand drive. Only us, the Commonwealth and Japan, I think, are right-hand drive countries, so it's a limited market, but they stuck to their guns there on that one.
Well, this is all for position now, and of course, because of the success penalty the 69 car had to serve, it's back behind the 8 car now. So the drivers in play here: Ben Green in the BMW, Adam Christodoulou in the Mercedes, and Johnny Cocker in the 69 Lamborghini. This is all for position. We're not entirely sure which positions yet, because it all needs to shake out with the rest of the pit stop, but it's going to be somewhere about 6th or 7th, I reckon. So Sam Dillane with work to do again. They're also in amongst some of the GT4 traffic, some of which has not yet pitted. But Johnny Cocker has just set the outright fastest middle sector on that previous lap, actually, despite the traffic around him. There's more traffic coming out to the pit lane, and that's the 37 Aston Martin, isn't it? With now Darren Turner on board, getting stuck straight in. Now, I'm not sure whether I think that car's a lap down, actually, because it fell down slightly in the first stint. Beautiful looking car, though, and they're going to be racing here in the 24 hours next week, so they're very much using this as a shakedown for that.
Yeah, and Tony Quinn is co-driver. I don't think we actually saw that car once in the opening stint. Australian guy, New Zealand actually, I think that's rather offensive to him, but yeah, I've met him, he's a brilliant character. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of him. Bought an Aston Martin Vulcan for the race track he owns in New Zealand, and as a safety car. And I remember talking to him, asking, what do you do for business? And he goes, I shoot kangaroos and sell them as dog food. So he assures me that the business is legitimate, and he hangs out of a helicopter shooting kangaroos, gets paid by the Australian government to shoot them, and then turns them into dog food and gets paid twice. So I guess that's how he...
Whatever you need to do, I'm all shooting kangaroos, because he's rather busy racing Aston Martins as a factory Aston Martin driver these days. But he is into the car and a lap down, but still they shake the car down for the 24 hours next week. Oh, that gap's going to close. I could see that coming, and Ben Green knew it as well. Backed out of it, but Christodoulou seizes the opportunity, gets alongside, but left, right sequence of corners, and so the inside of one corner is the outside of the next, and frustratingly for Christodoulou, he can't prise this door open, and he's very wide. Oh, this will be a move and a half, right round the outside. He's going to get run out of road again on the exit there, almost in the gravel trap, and Johnny Cocker not quite close enough to take advantage. That was robust stuff there. Ben Green was not for letting him through.
No, it was almost like a chess game there, with that Jag kind of just being in the middle. You had to choose if you wanted to go left or right of him, and who was going to help, and actually ended up kind of helping both, as we see a big old moment turning in there. That was not as bad as the Ballon incident, but again, turning in, you could, even from the forward facing onboard, you could see the rear of the car snap, and you're doing 145, 150 miles an hour. That is a big moment, and luckily now the improved safety here at Spa, that's all tarmac. 6-7 years ago that was still gravel, that would have been a large off, but yeah, you can push the envelope a bit more now with all this namby-pamby tarmac everywhere for us modern drivers.
I know, it's so terrible, isn't it? Well, I have to say, it probably didn't help that he was running about half a car length behind the BMW as well, which I think that was as graphic an example as you'll ever see of what dirty air does for the car. It's not just front downforce that goes away, it's downforce full stop, and these GT3 cars, we've made the point, they do rely on their downforce, and when you're within touching distance of another car at the fastest corner on the circuit, you can't really expect it to stick to the circuit like glue. Christodoulou trying now to fight back against the BMW. This is the problem, you see, you're trying to sort of pick your moments and think, well, I'm quicker here and he's weaker there, but if you catch a back marker at that part of the circuit, you have to abort, don't you, and just wait for another opportunity, and then equally, sometimes the traffic can create an opportunity where you weren't expecting it and you have to pounce.
Yeah, and you're trying to see where that traffic is going to get caught. You can obviously see some points of the track as we see a very slow 57.
That is the 57 car, second in the GT4 Championship. Sorry to cut across you there, but that is the car that had served its pit stop penalty anyway, but the 57 car now in the hands of Dean McDonald, Callum Poynton, Dean McDonald, I think, yeah, Dean McDonald taking the second stint, has made its pit stop but was going slowly. We'd like to keep watching this battle, of course, but that was a significant car in trouble, and there it is. And of course, it's extremely rare that you see a McLaren breaking down like this. There's no smoke, there's nothing hanging off it. That leads me to think it may well be electrical, and unfortunately, electrical gremlins can strike any car, can't they?
Yeah, definitely. It just looks like it's coasting to me, and all the way from the top of the Kemmel Straight all the way to this point here into Stabilo 1, it's downhill. So I don't know where he's going to plan to coast it, if he's turning it off and on the fly, to try and get some life back into it. But yeah, I think you've called it right, because there's no visible problems with it, and all of the cars now, the electronic systems are so complex, and it only takes one issue and the whole system gets knocked out, and it is hard to overcome. And sometimes an off and on can reboot it, and sometimes unfortunately it's terminal. But for their championship, let's hope they can get that sorted.
Yeah, so that plays into the hands nicely of the 15 car. I'll have a stab at giving the GT4 order in a few laps. I don't think everyone's quite finished pitting there yet, but GT3 they have. So the order in GT3 is the 96 Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin back out in front. That's Bradley Ellis now on board. Oh, back to that in a moment, because that was a close moment there for Adam Christodoulou, who was trying to be decisive in the traffic, but the traffic was being slightly less decisive and sort of lingering in the middle of the road. Right, there is your race leader. Bradley Ellis then leads the way by 13.7 seconds now over Glingedi, who is in for Ryan Ratcliffe in the number 7 Team Park Racing Bentley Continental. He is 9.5 seconds ahead of Johnny Adam, which makes sense. Johnny Adam was about 3 seconds off the lead. He served 20 seconds extra in the pit stop and has now dropped to 23 seconds behind. So that is the starting point then, plus 23 seconds between Johnny Adam and the race leader. But Johnny Adam is the highest placed pro driver, chasing down the 2 silver entries in front of him. Rob Bell is into the 22 McLaren. He's 11.7 seconds further back in 4th. Callum McLeod is in for Ian Logie now. Oh, and the 57 car stopped.
I did say it stopped going down here at Stavilo 1, and that's about Stavilo 1, so
I think you're right.
Unfortunately, I've ran around here, so I do actually know how hilly it is up and down. And if he can't fire it up, then gravity is no longer on his side, and that is a very bad place to be stopped without stating the very, very obvious. And that safety car work that we keep haunting is, if it does come out, then unfortunately Ellis and Geddy are going to be really, really struggling. As we see a warning flag on the left-hand side there, you can just see a 47 flashing, so that's most probably track limits. It's for the car, not for the driver, so if Graham Davidson had used them all up, then Johnny Adam unfortunately inherited that.
It is a 10-second stop-go penalty for contact with the Porsche. Oh. So that is real drama then for the 47 car that is in 3rd place at the moment, and that was potentially set to inherit 2nd place at least, maybe even the championship lead, and they will have to serve a 10-second penalty. Now, they are almost exactly 10 seconds ahead of Rob Bell's McLaren, so it may not cost them a position. They might come out of this okay.
Unfortunately, the 10 seconds plus the pit lane time, 28
yeah.
seconds here at Spa, so it's probably going to be like 40 by the time you add that into the equation. So, yes, it looks like today no one wants to win the championship, which is, I guess, lucky it's not the last round, but yeah, as we see, and like I said, I'm sure there was no intent from Davidson. It wasn't for position, but from the quick glimpse I caught of it, it did look like it turned the Porsche around. So everyone's going to shuffle up the pack now. It'll be interesting to see where that HHC McLaren has ended up. For me, it's 2 on the track to be a live snatch where they bring either a tractor or a 4x4 on to bring it. That only really works when it's off the track. But if we haven't had a safety car now, then hopefully it's rebooted and got on its merry way.
Yeah, even if you can just pull off the road, then that's better than nothing, isn't it? So, right, I'll try and carry on with this order, although it's going to change again now because of the penalty for Johnny Adam. Ben Green is 6th in the BMW number 3. Adam Christodoulou 7th in the number 8 Mercedes. They're the 2 cars on screen right there, with Johnny Cocker, the 69 Lamborghini, next in line in 8th. Seth Morris is 9th, but under investigation. In fact, now being given a 1-second stop-go penalty for too short a pit stop. And the 57 car's got as far as the bus stop. It's stopped again and then fired back up again. So that's good news. Dean McDonald is off the track. Bad news for their championship. And this championship curse seems to be striking GT4 cars as well as GT3s. So yeah, penalty then for the 31 car of Seth Morris. So he will drop out of 9th place. That will hand it to Nicky Team, and the Dane train will be well into the top 10. He's just set the fastest lap as well as Nicky Team, 2 minutes 21.406. Dennis Lind is 11th in the WPI Lamborghini. Jack Mitchell is 12th, not EastEnders character Ben Mitchell. Jack Mitchell is 12th, Darren Turner is 13th, and the last of the GT3 cars. In GT4, it is the number 4 car that leads the way. That's Josh Smith then, who we are watching there. And not far behind him is the number 5 car, but between them is the 97 Aston Martin, which is now being driven by Tom Canning. So it's Smith, Canning and Proctor. McLaren, Aston Martin, McLaren, Aston Martin, in fact the top 4, because the 95 car of Josh Price is 4th, so it's looking good for Tolman and TF Sport in GT4. Rounding out the top 5, Michael O'Brien in the number 20 McLaren. Now I believe we can bring you some footage of what happened between the 47 Aston Martin and the 33 Porsche. Oh, that's the Porsche and the right, because that's the other incident. That's the number 6 Ian Logie driven Mercedes getting punted out of the way. The incident we really need to try and see is the 47 car into the back of the 33, which is what the penalty's been given for. We don't have a full replay, but we may be able to possibly find you some footage of it in the near future. So, 43 minutes to go. Take a deep breath now, because I get a feeling it's all going to start to boil up now to a real crescendo in the final third or so of the race. These lead gaps in GT3 are coming down. Rob Bell now into 3rd place after Johnny Adams just served that stop-go penalty. Rob Bell on the previous lap was he was over 2 seconds quicker than the race leader, but he's 31 seconds back. not convinced he's quite going to get there, which may well be good news for Ollie Wilkinson, who has just got out of the 96 Aston Martin. Bradley Ellis is in it now and in the race lead, and Andy J is down at optimum with the man who led the entirety of the first stint.
Let's find out, shall we? Ollie, it's a case of job done for you, isn't it?
Yeah, you could say so. It was a hell of a stint, really. I managed to get away for a good start, and then really from there just get my head down and keep cracking on from there, really.
How's it feeling out there? Because it looks pretty darn hot.
Yeah, it was warm out there today, if I'm being honest. I was using the aircon though, so you know that keeps us relatively cool, so it wasn't too bad.
There's quite a few teams when they say the word aircon, they don't know what that is out there, so you're pretty lucky. What do you think? You've got a fair bit of the race to go, but you're in quite a commanding position.
Yeah, I think we're looking good where we are at the moment. I think, you know, all going well, we could well be on for a podium, if not a race win. But obviously, this is motorsport, and anything could happen between here and the finish line. So I wouldn't really like to say right now.
All right. Well, we'll keep a watch on it. Thank you for talking to us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So Ollie Wilkinson then happy, but also nervous, no doubt now, because he's done his bit. And now he has to watch his co-driver do the job. So if we think that Rob Bell, well, okay, first of all, Joe, do we think Rob Bell is too far back to catch the race leaders? So he may catch Glengedi, I suppose, but do you think he can catch Bradley Ellis? The gap is 29 seconds.
So we should have 18 laps, give or take one or two. My bad mathematics. So he's doing 2 seconds a lap quicker, right? So 36 seconds maximum he should be able to catch. So it's plausible. Is that 2 seconds going to be consistent every lap? No. But Bradley Ellis's and Glengedi should deteriorate quicker because of that weight. So if it's 2 seconds now, with another 40 minutes to go, that lap time should only get bigger, the deficit. Rob obviously has to clear Glengedi. That's not going to be zero time loss. There's going to be time devoted to just getting past Glyn in the Bentley, and then he has to make chase as we see this battle still raging on, and so far it's actually looked really clean as well. And I think Christodoulou might have it just about now, and as he tucks past Ben Green, and it's interesting now to see what pace Adam has to get away from this group.
Yes, they are about 17 seconds behind Johnny Adam now, who also fell behind Cal McLeod as well on the previous lap as a result of that penalty that they had. So Adam is down to 5th place now. Johnny Cocker, the other championship contending GT3 car, is 8th though, so they would at least gain some points. It's all going to be very close as we head to Brands Hatch, the penultimate round next time out. GT4 leader about to go another lap down to this little group, which are still fighting away, I remind you, for 6th position, with Mercedes having just taken it. So there are another couple of positions here up for grabs for Johnny Cocker, perhaps. He might have just managed to make better work of the back markers, can't quite get to the inside, but if he can gain these 2 places, they could be very valuable points indeed.
Yeah, the rate that Nicky T is catching though, unfortunately at the moment you would say he's probably more likely to lose the position in the next 5 or 10 minutes, the way the attrition's been going. His track limits at the last one as well, as we jump on board. Mercedes with Malvin, I think, against Plowman. Ooh, how's your mother, how's your father? And through he goes, and I would actually say, so in Scott's defence, and Scott and I have had some good battles with that sort of much contact, I would have done exactly the same as Scott, but I think he was slightly in the wrong. I would, in hindsight, probably give the position back to Plowman and look to do it again a little cleaner. The problem is that right-hander there in the middle of the coupe, it's not, you don't brake, so there is no real speed deficit. So what Malvin has done there is literally just thrown that GT4 Mercedes into a gap and given Plowman the problem, and Plowman's turned in like he has to, and the problem's created the contact. So yeah, I think robust is my word of the day, so I'll go with it again, and it's what I would have done, but I think slightly in the wrong. So we have Andy J in the pit lane with Ryan Ratcliffe, who had another mega stint.
Yes, Ryan, you told me just before the race, you said, right, my plan is to jump from P3 to P1 and then make the car as big as possible. Mission almost accomplished, you got to P2.
Yeah, I didn't really go to plan, my plan. I mean, Ian Loggy had an amazing start and he got past me. So spent a bit of time trying to get past him. By the time I did, Ollie had built up a massive lead, so it was just sort of trying to chip away to reel him back in. But to be fair to him, he did a really good job. Our car felt really nice, to be fair. So I'm happy with it. Yeah, Glyn's out there now doing a pretty good job. He seems to be keeping the McLaren at bay. I think we got a 13-second lead over it. I'm not sure.
Still a fair bit of time to catch P1 though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the leader's got a sort of a 13-second buffer as well. So we'll see though, anything can happen. It's Spa, it's British GT. There hasn't been a safety car yet, which there usually is every year, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty happy where we are right now, but if he can catch the leader, then that will be awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the race.
Now, if you're wondering what's happened to Ryan Ratcliffe, he's not going through a bad time. He's apparently, the lack of hair now is as a result of some money that he's been raising for charity, Joe, and actually not an insignificant amount of money either.
No, I think it's £14,000 for Cancer Research UK, which is a brilliant cause. I mean, he wasn't a great-looking guy anyway, so to do that to your hair actually wasn't that much of an issue for him. So, yeah, great to see, and he's probably worth a few tenths of a second as well with the weight saved.
Well, that is something, actually. Yes, Jeremy Clarkson made the point once that he was amazed Formula 1 drivers are allowed to grow beards and whatnot, because surely that's worth a few hundredths of a second a lap. So this is the number 7 car that Ryan Ratcliffe was in. We are going to try and go back now to this incident that was that saw a penalty go the way of 47 Aston Martin. This is all we have of it, so make the most of this. Yeah. So they're the 2 cars at the back of this group. Now, Joe, what can we see here?
So it looks like Davidson's trying to get the run on him, and it just hasn't quite judged the length of the front of his car, and it's such a gradual little nudge, but as you see, it's enough to fully rotate the Porsche, which I think then hits the barrier on the left-hand side, and that's why that bonnet boot thing pops up. And I think, unfortunately, yes, it's not for position, but the race director's done exactly the right thing. Davidson has caused an accident and has to be punished for it. There was no intent, there was no benefit for him in doing it. It was just a misjudgment. And unfortunately, when you're on the edge and you're pushing hard over a lap and then over a championship, those sort of things are going to creep in.
Now, you know we've been saying no one wants to win this championship in GT3 or GT4. Well, after the 57 HHC Motorsport McLaren has sort of... Oh, I'll get back to this in a moment, because Johnny Cocker's getting back to it again here with the number 3 BMW of Ben Green, side by side into Eau Rouge, and he goes through. So Cocker then into 8th position now. Again, uses a bit of the curb on the exit of Eau Rouge and Radion. Green will try and fight back, but doesn't look like he'll be able to. So in GT4 then, the 57 HHC McLaren has sort of handed this on a plate to the 15 Ford Mustang, which is now under investigation, or will be after the race, for a pit lane incident with the sister HHC car, the 58 car. Now, usually that means an unsafe release, but we don't know who it was that was released unsafely. We aren't being told that, but that's just another little cloud now over this race for one of our championship contenders in GT4 that, and it's not really nice to leave the circuit not knowing exactly what the result is. 35 in the garage, I'm afraid. That is Conor O'Brien in the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin. That's
a real shame. Conor, I used to coach Conor, one of the loveliest kids you'll ever meet. Slightly weird, but really, really nice, and is really committed this year to British GT. A good test programme of Optimum and the new Vantage GT4. Shame to see what the car, why it was in and what the problem was really. It looked like it was quite hot. They had a fan on top of the engine, but it didn't look like in a mad rush, so either means it's terminal or they don't know what it is yet. So yeah, 34 minutes to go. Hopefully they get the car back out and get some laps for Conor out there as we see this GT4 battle really hotting up. As we saw before the pit window, it was the 2 Tolman cars together. The 5 car had a 10-second penalty from its previous 3rd place at Snetterton, so that's why the 5 car is a little bit further back. It wasn't a bad pit stop or anything on that car's fault. It'd be interesting to see if this flows the same way as it did in the first stint. The 4 car started off quicker, then the 5 car catches up, and now we've got a 97 car in the sandwich of Tolman cars. This could turn into probably be the best battle of the race we've got remaining, I would say, at the moment.
TF Sport, I think I'm right in saying, haven't won a race yet in GT4. No, they haven't, so this would be their opportunity to do so, perhaps. Through comes Seb Morris in the GT3 Bentley.
Sorry, you just see the Aston Martin really aggressively dunk in behind that Bentley, biggest car out there, so if he could have got the slipstream there to try and get past the McLaren, and that's what you'll start to see as they both run wide. And it's completely different being up here. When I'm driving and racing, everything I do is legal, and that would have been fine. But when you watch it from the outside, some of the track limits, guys are really taking the mickey, and I think we're going to start to see some penalties coming thick and fast. You've basically got 4 lives. So first 3 go completely unnoticed. 4th one, you get a black and white warning, which is your final chance. It's kind of like a yellow card in football or rugby, and then it's straight to a drive-through penalty on your 5th issue. So, as I said, the car carries the penalty, not the driver. So if you're a co-driver who started the race, used up 3 of them, you've got 1 to go wide before you get the penalty. And I'm definitely seeing a lot of cars seeming to use up a lot of their lives quite early on. So the big hot spot's this one here on the left. So you can see both those look legal, got 1 wheel on the track. That's all good and you can carry on. But yeah, you've got effectively 5 lives before you get called up into the pit lane.
The 42 BMW is on its 2nd warning, we're being told, for exceeding track limits at turn 17, which I think is Blanchimont. So that's the corner at which these two both run wide a lap ago. So through Les Combes they go, and TF's last GT4 win was 2014. That is almost impossible to believe. Thank you again, Tom Hornsby, for sending us all of the information. And there we go, 2014. So they're long overdue a victory, and they are now in 2nd position, right on the tail of the race-leading McLaren. Another incident that's being investigated, by the way, is, and this is not going to be a great surprise, the incident between cars 66 and 11. That was Scott Mulvin and Martin Plowman. I think we both know which way that one might go, but we'll await. It's only under investigation for the time being. Pit stop infringement for car number 9 is also under investigation. That will further improve the mood down at Century Motorsport, because that's their GT3 car being investigated now for some sort of pit infringement, too short to stop, speeding, unsafe release, could be any one of a number of things really. So we move now towards the final half of this race. The lead gaps at the front are staying fairly stable between Ellis and Geddy, but Rob Bell is on a mission. He's now 19 seconds off the race lead. He was about 23 or 24 off it, so he's gained about 4 or 5 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds maybe, on the race lead. And he's 7.8 now behind Rob Bell, with Callum McLeod still 4th and Johnny Adam in 5th position, and set to take some points out of the Barwell cars, but not really as many as it looked like they might do earlier on this afternoon.
So I've got a few more tweets coming in, and like I said earlier, if anyone's got any questions that I can try and answer live on the air, then Twitter Osborne Joe for me as we see the GT4 Battle Rage. Got a few that come in. Got Jack Goffer, I think normally races those touring car. They're not quite as good as these things, but he's obviously trying to convert himself. Him and a friend, Si Shaw, normally watch football, and they're asking what's the best way to get to British GT. Then any of the races, you can just buy tickets online, come along, and if any of you guys come into the paddock, I'm more than happy to show you around the cars and show you what proper motorsport's about, basically.
It is a real assault on the senses as well, isn't it, GT racing? That's one of the things, whenever I introduce people to motor racing, it's usually either touring cars or GTs. Touring cars because it is that sort of, you know, really high-paced action sort of racing, but GT racing, it's this assault on the senses. The car look amazing, they sound amazing, and the racing, as we've seen, is pretty epic as well. Down in the pit lane, where things are maybe starting to calm down a little bit now after the pit stop window, is Andy J. Andy, who have you got for us this time?
James, just tell me what you're seeing, because this is quite exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those races where, I mean, luckily we managed to get a good start, but then you're just punching a hole in the air for everybody. So, as you saw in my stint, I just had the whole pack right up behind me the whole race, which really does put the pressure on. And now, as you can see, Josh is under exactly that same pressure from the Aston. So, but you know, I've got all the faith in him. So hopefully we'll have a bit of luck this time and come away with a win.
Which is harder, being in the car or watching the car?
Well, I thought being in the car. Now I'm out. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've got all the faith in Josh, and he has got a good car underneath him. We know it's running well, so just fingers crossed now we can bring it home.
He's got to hold on for half an hour.
Yeah, that's going to be the longest half an hour you've ever seen.
And it's certainly in your case, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking to us. Good luck.
No worries, cheers.
James Dillane, who came so close to winning the Renault UK Clio Cup last year, only for a post-season penalty to, unfortunately, demote him to 2nd, which is not really the way you want to lose it. But he's had a bit of a torrid season so far as well. Theirs was the car that broke down before the race had really started at Donington Park last time out, and now here they are trying to defend this lead. So what do you think then, your professional view? Does the Aston Martin look like it is handling better? Is it managing its tyres better? Where do you see the strengths and weaknesses between these two?
So I'd say the Aston's a little bit quicker, hence why it can stick on its bumper. But I'd say the McLaren's just got the top speed advantage, and that's probably why we haven't seen the position change at the moment. We probably need to see a bit more to see exactly what's going on, as we see team on Christodoulou there. Christodoulou's in deep. Nicky's trying to hang it around the outside like a trailer park girl. Unfortunately gets shown the hard shoulder. Off he goes again, but Nicky's progress through the field is just unreal, absolutely amazing. For Sam Dillane to be the best in stint 1, even with half of it left, Nicky's really showing these guys what's for, as we see them all back up behind a GT4 car, all kind of brake test each other, not on purpose, for necessity, so they don't run into each other. But yeah, Nicky's absolutely flying here. You'd probably say this is the last position he's realistically going to get. It's a big gap then to the cars in front, but again, a safety car comes out, then it's all about track position, so he needs to try and clear Christodoulou as quickly as he can. I'd probably say his best opportunity is either going to be into the bus stop or into Lacuma after the Kemmel Straight. The top speed of the Aston seems to be its biggest positive against the Mercedes, as we saw in stint 1 with the AMS driving. That Merc had the power just to cruise round, sorry, the Aston had the power to cruise round the Mercedes.
If he gets past Christodoulou quickly, he's only about 7 seconds behind Johnny Adam, but again, then you start delving into the team politics, don't you? Are they really going to take points away from the 47 car? If Nicky Team had his way, I know what would happen, but he may not be able to make that final decision himself. That's only really if he gets past Christodoulou in the next lap or so, which in fairness looks like it is definitely on the cards. Out of Blanchimont they come, back towards us. If I peer out of my window, I can see them coming towards us with the sunlight glinting off the bodywork. And that new Aston Martin has got a distinctive new sound to it this year, but I have to say it's a very nice design, and a little more slippery maybe in a straight line now maybe than the old Vantage, and that possibly is what's leading to it having this apparent advantage in a straight line. Yeah,
I think that, and it's gone to turbo now, so the torque that turbos bring to the whole drivetrain, and that's really the future of motorsport. Everything's going turbo. You can go smaller engine, so you get better fuel efficiency, but then when the turbos kick in, you get more torque and more power that way. So we're watching for a Rouge, listen for a lift. Tiny one as he turns right. A little bit illegal from both of them, but kind of fairly illegal on both parts. And now he's in the slipstream, that extra torque we talk about as we go back to the GT4 battle. And the Aston, similar, sort of sat behind him. Back to team on Christodoulou. Christodoulou covers the inside. I think he's probably got to be a car length closer as they get through Eau Rouge, so he's then got an opportunity to get around the outside of him. You see how much is going on with the windscreen of Aston Martin, so you've got 2 braces in the middle. That'll be to stop any big debris coming through the windscreen. Although it all looks like the road car, that'll be a polycarbonate plastic windscreen rather than glass, so it's not particularly strong, so they support it there. And then you see in the right-hand corner the 2 black boxes with the wires. They're GPS aerials for the data systems and camera systems. So there's a lot of complex technology in these cars these days, and yeah, there's a hell of a lot going on for the driver behind as well. He'll be working away, trying to work out where Christodoulou's weakness is, like Neary there through Pouon. Bit of a slide in the middle of the corner, but just looks like the Merc's got the advantage in sector 2, the more mid-speed downforce corners, and then it looks like the Aston's got the advantage maybe the end of sector 3 and sector 1, which is all about top speed.
Just to take us back to GT4 for a moment, no further action in the incident between Mulvern and Plowman, which is interesting. So they clearly decided it was a racing incident, and I'm sure Martin Plowman disagrees, but Scott Mulvern able to take the place and keep it. So that's that one little box tick then. We've got our answer to that one, as Nicky Team is still struggling to find a way past Adam Christodoulou, and every time he gets close enough to attack, there's traffic up the road. Yeah,
this could be interesting. McLaren right in the middle of Blanchimont's going to really hold Christodoulou up. If he can get, almost be like a restart on Christodoulou, as we see the Abfab Swedish McLaren get out of the way well, and yeah, just Christodoulou's doing a wide job here. He's going to be looking for the cutback, so he'll go to the left-hand side now, Nicky. Again, the traction on that Mercedes is brilliant. It's really, really good. You can see it pulling away there. So it's kind of safe, I would say, in first, second, third gear corners. It's then fourth gear and above, I'd say the Aston is stronger, and that's really what we see through Eau Rouge and beyond.
Seems well planted, doesn't it, through the high-speed corners, the Aston Martin. There's another back marker in the way now, which looks like one of the GT4 Aston Martins, which Nicky will be determined to get past before he hits Eau Rouge. Can he get there? Oh, just about, but that was heart in the mouth stuff. But if he loses a second or two there, it could take him another 2 or 3 laps to gain that time back. So they have to be decisive, and the GT4 drivers, I'm sure, get a bit frustrated at this sometimes because they feel like they get elbowed out of the way left, right and centre, but if they were in the GT3 driver's position, they would do exactly the same thing. They have to make the progress as soon as they can. Struggling to make progress is Tom Canning. He's been latched onto the rear bumper of this McLaren pretty much since the start of his stint about 40 minutes ago, and he just can't find a way through. Two more evenly matched cars you can't really hope to find out there. You sense it will take a mistake from Dillane, or maybe he can take an opportunity when some of the GT3 cars come through to lap them. But even under braking, they're almost identical, aren't they? There's just no advantage to either car.
Yeah, I really don't think one of them's stronger than the other one anywhere. So, as you've rightly called, it's going to be a mistake on Smith's part that Canning's got to be pouncing on, and maybe Canning would be advised. You can't believe how much space they've got at the moment around them, but he might be better just to back off a second, because he's not really under any pressure from Proctor behind, who had to serve that 10-second penalty. And sometimes what you find when you back up and then you close back up to the car, you get that momentum and you can actually carry that speed past him. Whereas if you're just following him, you can't really do anything about that to gain the speed on him anywhere. So actually, it kind of looks like he has left that gap as soon as I've said it. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And really, we're getting into tyre management now, is which tyre's going to go off quicker. You've got the engine in the front of the Aston Martin, so that's going to work the front tyre harder. Likewise in the McLaren, it's mid-engine, so that's going to work the rear tyre harder. So it's going to be how the teams have set the pressures, the cambers, all the setup. As we see Dennis Lind really on the back end of Ben Green there. And yeah, Dennis has got a bit of work to do, obviously, after Igo's couple of issues in his first stint.
Yes, Jack Goff watching from home, probably very familiar with that sort of driving. That was extremely close, not quite full-on contact, but a little bit of a tap in the tail. Oh, Seb Morris in trouble. Seb Morris slowing in the Bentley. That looks like a rear right puncture or suspension damage, or both maybe. We think, well, they've been in the pit lane a few times anyway with penalties and whatnot, so there's something wrong with the back of the Bentley, and their season again has really unravelled after that really strong start with the win at Alton Park. It's just not gone to plan since then. They were disqualified from Silverstone, and now another retirement on the cards. Oh, well, we cut away there to Nicky Team, almost running into the back of Martin Plowden, who's had a lively stint, but the battle between the WPI Motorsport Lamborghini of Dennis Lind and the BMW of Ben Green was getting feisty into the first corner as well. Nicky Team has lost some ground now, but look at the way that they are catching. All of a sudden, Johnny Adam is only a couple of seconds up the road from him, in fact, less than that now. So there's something amiss possibly there for Johnny Adam, I think, because, yeah, the 47 car really getting hampered in traffic, but they can't really afford to lose any more places. And we were saying it was unlikely that Nicky Team was going to catch his teammate. Is this a problem, do we think, for Adam, or is this... There's a lot of time for Johnny to have lost in traffic. He was about, what was it, 12 seconds or so in front of them?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if we can stay on board a little bit longer to see what the car's looking like. It looks okay under traction, so he's got enough power. Looks okay for a left-hander, so there's no problem with the suspension, particularly on the loaded side, we'd say. Let's check under braking. Adam eats in a little bit, but that can just sometimes be the concertina effect. Throws up the dust in his face. Try and block his radiator. Looks okay, so it could just be a really, really bad run of traffic. Like we said earlier, it's quite easy to lose a couple of seconds. Do that 5 or 6 times, there's your 10 or 11 seconds. But yeah, it's not like Johnny. Johnny's Mr. British GT, as I said, he knows how to handle all of this. And yeah, I mean, I really don't get it. My most logical thing is, like, they're going to use Johnny to back Adam up into Nicky, so Nicky can overtake him. But that is way too far-fetched as a conspiracy theory. So this is going to be an amazing battle now. I think the cars are all in the wrong order, you would say. Nicky's quickest but third, Adam's second quickest and in second, and Johnny's at the moment slowest and the lead of this 3-car battle. More
traffic ahead as well as they come through Blanchimont. How will this play out, I wonder? Adam Christodoulou trying his best to apply the pressure. It's the Invictus Games Racing Jaguar even, and Christodoulou drives round him. Yeah, that didn't look right, did it, there for Johnny Adam? He braked significantly earlier than he normally would. He's not pitting, so he clearly feels he can manage it, but he's going to keep losing places.
Yeah, so staying under braking. We know the suspension looks all right from how it's handling, so it could be an ABS issue. Where we saw him braking earlier into Pouon isn't such a big brake zone, whereas where you go into the bus stop, you're hard into the brakes, and if Johnny's lost the ABS, he simply won't be able to brake as hard or late and get the car stopped. So he maybe is just nursing an issue to get the car home, but yeah, that car has lost performance, and I wonder if he's going to get caught potentially by Cocker and even Lind if Lind can clear green.
Right, this is, Lind trying to go around the outside of Ben Green, right on cue. We're hearing Seb Morris has been in for a tyre change. They've changed that rear right tyre, so maybe it was just a puncture or something in the wheel itself. But either way, there, Dave going back to worse. And now, yeah, through goes Nicky Team. That was always going to happen, wasn't it? So the Dane train steams through into fifth position now. Yes, so sixth position. Get that right in a minute. So he's ahead of Johnny Adam now. Fifth position will be the next target. Adam Christodoulou up the road from him. And there is Seb Morris coming through, almost a lap behind even some of the midfield GT3 runners now. So the 42 BMW now on its third track limits warning in GT4, the car that started on pole position, the sister car in a way to the number 3 Century Motorsport machine that we're seeing now. And the two of them head down the hill here with Dennis Lind still very much in the wheel tracks of the BMW in front of it. Just to let you know, by the way, the 33 Porsche with Greg Caton at the wheel has pitted. It's in the pit lane into retirement, so somebody was asking Joe on the Twitter about that. That's where it's gone. It's had a rough day, hasn't it, the Porsche? It had the damage, a penalty, and then got nerfed into the barriers by Graham Davidson as well. And that rear damage, I think, possibly was the final nail in the coffin, wasn't it? That looked fairly significant.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. Both AMs in that car, as we highlighted earlier. These cars are so expensive to run, in the region of 30 to 40 pounds per kilometre of running costs. So if you're running around at the back and you're not going to get any chance of a good result, then parking it in the garage does save you quite a lot of money, and yeah, you can maybe get the earlier crossing back home and be home for Sunday night. But yeah, thank you for that question, Marcel. We'd missed that one. I've got a few new people watching today, which is good. So Nathan Down, thank you for tuning in. It's good to have people joining British GT, the championship that I've always loved. But with the coverage now, we've got it live at Spa as well now, which is brilliant. We can watch all the way around the 2 hours of Spa, which is new for us. We've only ever had it at the British tracks before, I believe. So yeah. I always like coming here and watching cars going hammer and tongue.
Which they have been, and look at this could not be any closer. Dennis Lind is almost in the boot now of the BMW in front of him. In front of them, meanwhile, Scott Mulvan's attack continues as he tries now to get past the McLaren, which is a lap down, I believe. Dennis Lind just can't quite prise this door open, although he's got a good exit from La Source, and I think that might just have done it, but they've been here before side by side, and there's traffic in front as well, which is Martin Plowman's Aston Martin. Which way do they go? All of them was leaning on each other. Someone will have to give here, and it's not going to be Dennis Lind. He goes through ahead of Ben Green. Nicely done that. He had to do that before they came across this Aston Martin, and now he can pull out and pass it fairly easily. So down the Kemmel Straight they go then. And that puts Dennis Lind into 9th position now. Next target will be Johnny Cocker, though, who's 18 seconds up the road. All Green fighting back here into Lecom. Pretty good on the brakes, it would seem, but no, can't get through. All Mulvan's trying that move again up the inside into the final part of Lecom, and that was this time on the 58 HHC McLaren, which has had its troubles as well in this race. 58 is running at the moment down in 7th place, I believe, in the as far as the silver cars are concerned in GT3. At the head of the GT3 field, by the way, things are getting rather tighter now. There were only about 3 seconds between Glingeddy in 2nd and Rob Bell in 3rd, and as they flash past us out the window, I can see they are almost nose to tail now, so the 2nd place battle is beginning. Rob Bell, at the start of this stint, was 24 seconds off the race lead. With 15 minutes left, he's 10 seconds off the race lead. So as you said, the deeper into the stint we go, the more that ballast seems to be affecting the silver cars, and Rob Bell might yet, do you think, be able to get into this?
So we've got 5 or 6 laps left, depending on how the checker flag falls on the leader. So 9 seconds is still doable. It is all about how quickly Bell can clear Geddy. And I think we've seen this gap now. It's obviously closing quickly, and we saw earlier when Sean Balfe was in the 22 car that it was top speed that seemed to be the McLaren's strongest point. So Rob will be hoping he can cruise up to the back of that Bentley, get a slipstream off it, and just drive straight past it with no real time loss. So it looks like we've been following the McLaren for a bit. It looks really planted. It doesn't look like Rob's got any handling issues whatsoever. The car's nice and planted. Big dirty V8 making a nice sound as he accelerates out of Brussels. And there we have the top 3. Lovely shot into Pouan. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. I think we've got Rick Parfitt in the pits with Andy J. It'd be interesting to get his take on everything.
Yes, we certainly do, Rick. It started so well, and then we've just seen the car come in with what looked like a rear puncture. What's going on?
Oh, it's just Spa has served up its usual carnage, I guess. You know, we knew we had good straight line, but it's interesting to see the strengths and weaknesses of the different cars. So the Lambos are very, very quick through the twisty stuff. We're quick in a straight line, and so it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. And so at the beginning, you know, I had a cracking run on Dillane, and thought I'd given him enough room, and obviously we came together. It was unfortunate, you know. Sorry, Sam, but I thought I'd given him enough room. It's one of those things. It wasn't malicious in any way. Both of us were just fighting over the same, and I was coming back on, so it's a shame. But you know, and from there on, it's just gone from bad to worse. I think we had a pit stop infringement. We were 1 second under, and so that's put us back. And yeah, that's kind of it really so far. Oh yeah, and a puncture. So, but that's racing, isn't it? You know, 99% frustration, 1% elation, and today's 99%.
It gets in the end, doesn't it? Sorry, mate. Thank you for talking to us.
Yes, thank you, Andy, with Rick Parfitt, who always has a smile on his face regardless of how badly things might be going out on track. And
the show must go on.
Well, it must indeed, and he understands this, and he pours his heart and soul, doesn't he, into his racing programme, and he's reaped the rewards in the past. He is a former champion, let's not forget, along with Seb Morris, his co-driver. This is Nicky Thiem. The BMW is a lap down, but the Mercedes in front of him is not. What of the battles right at the front of the field? Only 1.4 seconds now separate Glynn in second and Rob Bell in third. You do not know where to look, as is always the case when we get into the final portion of these races. It seems that there are always about 16 different battles going on, but there is one for second place, which is developing now. Rob Bell needs to get on with this. We were discussing off air whilst Andy was talking to Rick just now, whether we think Rob Bell can get there, and I think it all depends on how long he spends behind this Bentley. If he can get past Geddy quickly, there is maybe a chance, that Rob Bell could get there, and this could be his opportunity because one of the GT4 McLarens is in the way. That maybe cost Geddy a mile an hour or so off the corner, but there's not really much you can do about that through this sequence. The middle sector is, unless the car in front makes a mistake, more or less single file, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. It flows lefts, rights, fast, medium speed corners, and yeah, you get one car at the wrong point, it almost feels like you lose your momentum for the next 2 or 3. And yeah, we see Rob really closing up here now, and this is probably where the McLaren's stronger. You can get on top of those curbs. You can see the Bentley looks like it's dancing around on its tyres. It's probably worn them. The pressures have gone higher. When the pressures go high, the tyre literally feels like a beach ball. You're just floating around on it. And I think it's easy to forget that the Balfe car also had 15-second penalty from its podium at Snetterton. So it's less than 15 seconds away from the leader. So if it hadn't had that, as we see Ryan the Egg looking on, and he's got a lot of stress for the next 11 minutes or so, hoping Glynn can hold on. It's almost a guaranteed podium, but second is one of those positions that sounds a lot better than third for whatever reason. So yeah, it's going to be a titanic scrap for the podium positions, I think. They have had a second place finish in race 1 at Snetterton, have Team Parker Racing. The best finish for the McLaren, meanwhile, has been a second place finish also last time out. They've had 2 podiums this season, but they are really now on the coattails of the Bentley. They're 7.1 seconds off the race leader with 10 minutes to go. Ooh, looking for the better exit from La Source, but Geddy had it covered, moved to the right-hand side of the road, then shovels him back over to the left-hand side, where Rob Bell tried to get himself alongside. Whilst this battle is raging, by the way, significant move for 7th place. Johnny Cocker is ahead of Johnny Adam now, so that's the 2nd place car in the championship, now ahead of the 3rd place car in the championship, and that puts them into 7th place, which is just enough for the 69 car to take the championship lead by, I think, half a point, based on my very rough mathematics. With 2 races to go, it literally couldn't be any closer. But the outcome of this race is still up in the air here. Rob Bell needs to get a move on here. As soon as he's got stuck behind Geddy, he's going slower than Bradley Ellis, the race leader. In the first sector alone, lost half a second. Yeah, and you see how aggressive Glynn is now with his defence. He doesn't care how much time he loses, because he's given up that he's not going to catch Bradley Ellis in front, so he can devote all his attention to defending from Rob, whereas Rob is trying to spin 2 plates here. He's trying to clear Glynn and then get on. They could get a good cat back here. You can hear he just had to lift off the throttle just at the apex so he didn't run into the back of him. I think that lost his momentum to try and get the overtake done down the hill into Poole, and so his next real opportunity is going to be into the bus stop. And
Rob is obviously vastly experienced, and what you're seeing him do here is just drop back a length or two once he knows he can't overtake him for the next couple of corners, and there's no need to just follow him in the dirty air. That's Ryan's mum, the better looking of his parents. That's where he gets his looks from. And yeah, so Rob was just keeping his car clean, and then he'll try and charge it back up again, look to get a good exit, potentially get these GT4 cars in front to help him. But yeah, really here, I think his best opportunity is going to be bus stop, La Source, top of Eau Rouge, and then Kemmel Straight, and I think that's about it. But that's 4 opportunities, but I think we've lost the opportunity of the McLaren winning the race. And I think Bradley has done such a good job. He's been metronomic in his stint, and he's just kept the lap times plugging away, and it's just meant that the gap's big enough to defend from the non-weighted Pro-Am McLaren.
More traffic there, the race performance Ford Mustang leading the way, and Geddy almost comes to a standstill there trying to avoid hitting it, but of course Rob Bell has to react to that and slow down as well, so again no real advantage gained there. They just put a lap on the 42 BMW, by the way, which is being investigated for contact with Seb Morris's Bentley. Again, we don't know which way around that might go, but they're clearly the 2 cars that made contact that forced the JRM Bentley into the pit lane. This Bentley, though, doing a good job of filling the track, which is something Bentleys do quite well, but Geddy is having to drive defensively here. A good exit through Eau Rouge would help Rob Bell, but again, in that dirty air, he just can't carry the same speed as Geddy, can he?
No, and that Bentley is so aero-dependent, so it's great for being in the Bentley, but when you're behind it, all that air that is coming off the back of it just means it's disrupted, basically. So the McLaren hasn't got a consistent airflow over its wings and diffuser, so it's hard for it to generate the same downforce as we see McLeod there in the Ram Mercedes getting close, and that's all because Geddy's on that defensive. So suddenly that podium that looks so certain of those 3 cars is could be a 4-car fight for 3 positions.
On the previous lap, as Nicky Team goes side by side with Adam Christodoulou into Eau Rouge and goes through, so that's 5th position, would you believe, now for Nicky Team. Track limits, what track limits? Into 5th place he goes. He's not going to catch anyone else. He's 37 seconds behind McLeod. Well, this has been a storming drive from Nicky Team.
Wow.
This is the battle in GT4 now. Martin Plowman is back with Scott Mulvern and might have a score to settle here. He's probably thinking, well, the clerk of the course hasn't settled this score for me, so maybe it's time for me to dish out some justice myself. The next corner is probably not the corner to do that, but maybe into the bus stop he might just fire one up the inside. These 2 are scrapping away over 23rd place overall, but crucially 3rd place in GT4 Pro-Am. Remember, the 11 car is leading the Pro-Am GT4 category in the championship. Through the bus stop they go, almost running into the back of the 58 car, which I'm pretty sure is, oh, that's also for position actually. That's a silver car, but that is for GT4 position as well. So these 3 are all fighting for overall GT4 positions, but the Mercedes and the Aston Martin fighting for something rather more significant to them, which is a GT4 Pro-Am Championship battle. Down the hill into Eau Rouge, where can Plowman make this move? If anywhere, he's almost pushing Malvern down the hill. Now, Plowman, I'm sort of saying in jest that he might dish out some justice here to Malvern, but he's not going to be gentle with Scott, is he, after what happened earlier on? He's not going to do anything dirty, but he's certainly not going to give him any slack, is he?
Yeah, the bar's been set.
Yes.
So you can play to the rules that have been given to you, and the rules have been laid out earlier by that move. So, yeah, I think eye for an eye at this point would be fair, and the race directors obviously also agreed with that that move as we see this 3-car battle again. Malvin lost a bit of time trying to get past the McLaren, but places the car somewhere which Plowman can't do anything about and has to check up. So it's interesting. I was amazed at Malvin's pace at the start of this season. It's really dropped off. I don't know if there's a problem or the tyres just gone, but he was streaking away from Plowman, and now it's roles reverse. In this last 5 minutes, looks like you'd want to be in Plowman's car rather than anyone else's in that battle. So, yeah, a couple of laps to try and settle the score on Plowman's onside. I think Martin's one of the fairest guys out there, so I don't think anything underhand will happen. But yeah, he's got some ammunition to try a slightly different move potentially to what's been the norm here today.
Well, this is very close indeed, and the 58 car, as I said, of Luke Williams is also in this battle for position. So Malvin's in a bit of a difficult situation here. He's very much the meat in the sandwich. And they come through the middle sector now. Speaking of being the meat in the sandwich, Rob Bell has now been fully caught by Callum McLeod. So if we ever dare take our eyes off this battle, the fight for second place overall is getting very tasty indeed. And right on cue, here they are. Rob Ball with the McLaren in second position, going through the double apex left-hander at Pouhon. And now Rob Bell has to watch his mirrors as well as look out of the windscreen, because as we said, Callum McLeod is right with them now. So Geddy is slow because maybe the tyre's going off, whatever the issue is. He's also defending, both of which are backing Rob Bell into Callum McLeod. So at what point does Rob Bell say, right, well, if I keep being patient, I'm going to lose a position. I just have to go for this.
Yeah, and it's trying to find what's the best opportunity to do it, and it looks so close again. I thought the McLaren was going to have a better top speed than the Bentley, but it doesn't look that way, and it just looks because the Bentley is so aero-dependent, the McLaren can't follow it that well, and that's why the pace has deteriorated so quickly, and Rob hasn't been able to get past him. So I think as we see Morris maybe looking to try and do a fourth pit stop if he gets some more contact. Two biggest cars out there, if they drive like that, no one's going to be able to get around them for a few laps. I think Rob's just got to try and line up a move on the brakes and hope that Glyn leaves a little door open, can maybe dummy back, but he's going to the outside, so then McLeod's got the inside on Rob, and he's gone a long way deep. If he can get it round, three wide, this could potentially
This is going to get interesting, isn't it? Callum McLeod's got a better exit than both of them, and I think they are three abreast past the old pit lane. Look at this, for second place with 3 minutes left on the clock. Rob Bell gets his nose in front. Someone will have to back out of it, and none of them do. 3 abreast into Eau Rouge, and McLeod gets both of them from 4th to 2nd. Phenomenal racing, but now Glyn Geddy will try and fight back. You can tell he used to race in touring cars, can't you? He's got a better run. He's in the tow. He pulls to the outside line, and Rob Bell may yet benefit from all of this. As around the outside goes Glyn Geddy in what is turning into a real hammer and tongs battle here, but McLeod on the inside line will prevail and goes into 2nd place. What fabulous racing that was. I do not know how Callum McLeod managed to thread the needle, but he did, and he's into 2nd place.
I've never seen that. I've never seen 3 GT3 cars wide into Eau Rouge and all 3 make it, and it be fair. Yeah, I think Glyn did everything he could. Rob had to be on that side the way he did it, and then McLeod was only left with one option, which was the best option, is to be on the outside for the left, but the inside for the right. And yeah, great racing, and it's a shame we've only got 2 minutes left of this race. As we see, Rob's in front, Glyn then gets the run, then McLeod has the inside, Glyn has to back out. McLeod has a big old tank slapper, they both cut the top. And then Glyn's in the slipstream, but doesn't manage to get back past him. But kudos to all 3 of them. I think that's the only time I've actually been grateful to be in the commentary box, not in a race car, and I've been watching those 3. I don't know which one I wanted to be at the start, but yeah, great job to all 3 of them.
Your eyes were on stalks, just sat here in the commentary box, so imagine what the drivers were feeling like there. But they're the moments you live for, surely, as a racing driver, especially if you're the Callum McLeod of the situation and you just pass 2 cars up the inside into Eau Rouge. They're the moments that live in your memory forever, that you will never, ever forget, and we won't forget that in a hurry either. Fantastic stuff. And Callum McLeod then into 2nd position. They've been on a good run mid-season, haven't they, the Mercedes squad, after a disappointing start to the year that we documented a bit earlier on. They then went and won at Silverstone, did Ian Loggie and Callum McLeod. They had a good pace at Donington as well, but a late issue dropped them down to 10th position in the end. So into the La Source hairpin they go. And it is looking good right now, you'd have to say, for Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson. They are 0.3 seconds clear of McLeod, now 2nd, Geddy 3rd, still with Rob Bell on his tail, and they're still fighting for a podium position, so this is worth keeping an eye on, this little scrap. In GT4, by the way, oh, look at that. It is the number 4 car of Smith still ahead of Canning, and this is situation normal, really. They've been nose to tail for the best part of an hour now, and Canning hasn't found a way through. You have to suggest, therefore, he's not likely to in the last lap and a half, is he?
No, he's closed back up. There was a bit of a gap at one point in like 2 seconds. He's now obviously back down to 10ths of a second. So he's still got the pace. He just doesn't seem to have the sort of the key to unlock the answer of Smith's defensive / perfect driving so far. Not one mistake in an hour under that much pressure is hugely, hugely impressive from young Josh Smith. So they get one more lap, even though the time will run out because the GT3 leader has started the last lap. They will also do the same. So they've got one more lap, one more opportunity for Canning all the way around the outside. And so,
has that damaged the McLaren? I think it has it? The smoke out of the back.
Yeah, I mean, there's a radiator in the door, basically, where it is. Canning's got the position. Yeah, it's done the LTR. Sorry, no, the other radiator on the McLaren. So he could be able to finish the lap. I don't know, man.
That's bad, isn't it? It's spilling out onto the rear tyre as well. He's about to head into Eau Rouge with that, where you really lean on that left rear tyre. He's pulling off. Oh, I don't believe the heartbreak for the number 4 squad, who have just had the unluckiest season, I think, in motor racing history. This is just insane. Nothing has gone right for them, and having led with just over a lap to go, they pull off with damage after contact with the Aston Martin. Well, we'll dissect that in a moment or two. There'll be plenty to dissect after this race. Right now, though, let's focus on the Optimum Motorsport squad, who are about to become the 6th different winner from 7 races this year. They're about to take their first victory, therefore, of the season as well. And this will be Bradley Ellis's first British GT win in 11 years. 2008 at Snetterton was his last victory. And there's fluid, I think, maybe down from that McLaren, but Bradley Ellis, with one last little heart-stopping moment, comes through and wins round number 7 of the British GT Championship with Ollie Wilkinson delighted with that. And Rob Bell spins from 4th position. There's definitely fluid down at the bus stop chicane from the Tolman McLaren, and Rob Bell, well, I don't think he'd got past Geddes, so it hasn't cost him a place, but my word, the 58 McLaren seems to be stopping now as well at the finish. It is all going wrong here for McLaren at the end of the race. McLeod comes home second, 10.5 seconds off the leader. Glingeddy comes home in third with Ryan Ratcliffe back on the podium. There's more cars going off. That's Andy Prio having a moment. One of the GT4 Astons is off. Oh, everyone's going off on this fluid at the last corner, and we could have a change of position here. Nicky Team, Adam Christodoulou. No, Christodoulou sliding around, can't get the power down, coming out of the corner. What an end to what has been a balmy race anyway, but that was a particularly balmy end to the race. And in GT4, it is going to be, and I add the word controversially here, and also provisionally, the victory that will go to the 97 Aston Martin, which is being driven in this final stint by Tom Canning. It was started by Ash Hand. They've run in the top 4 all day long. They've had a good race. It's a shame, though, isn't it, that it ended that way with the contact with the McLaren, but they are going to come home victorious, and I'm sure there will be a discussion post-race about that, but it's going to be a good day for Aston Martin as Optimum win in GT4, in GT3, and TF Sport take their first victory of the season in the GT4 category as well, after what at times has been a trying season. But the 97 car, which is still in championship contention, remember, wins in GT4 here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and actually by a fairly sizable margin over, it'll be Lewis Proctor, won't it now, in the 5 car, who is slow? I
think he's probably been warned of the fluid somewhere in the last corner, and he's just driving off the line. He's got plenty of time. So, yeah, those boys have done well. I mean, I'm biased. Listen, I work for McLaren. I'm about as unbiased as a North Korea TV station as we see Ollie Wilkinson celebrate. And while we're looking at it, Bradley Ellis, what a job. Ollie Wilkinson started racing 3 years ago. Bradley's been his coach since day one. He's taken this kid from Leeds and absolutely transformed him into a British GT winner. That is a long process, and the hours that Brad and Ollie have put into that is well deserved. And like I was saying, I'm biased, but I actually think the move was okay by Canning. Right. I think he'd gone round the outside and he was there. I think Smith was either unaware he was there or was keen to make sure that Canning couldn't get past him and tried to close the door. We've only seen it once. We need to see another replay, but my gut instinct is how we see it on the track is how it finishes, as we see the Jag lose it on the fluid. This isn't some kind of style point finish that they're going for. He puts all the smoke down. Bradley Ellis probably has a little moment out of his mouth and his other end, and then just brings it to the line for the win, which is great. We then see Rob Bell later on after McLeod obviously finds it okay. Malvern runs wide. And then, all chaos ensues, and it's just the coolant. It's not just water. There's all the chemicals in it, and it's like a slippery film, basically. So, yeah, you go from 100% grip to kind of 5%. And it looks like the McLaren's got a rear left puncher, the HHC one, so it's not too happy on the rear left. So that was fortunate timing. It's just outside its garage as well, so it should get home on a good speed as well. So, yeah, that was a great race, and then suddenly the last 5 minutes went mental and I didn't have a chance to breathe.
That was incredible, wasn't it? I mean, the British GT Championship continues to go from strength to strength, and we use that phrase a lot, but my word, it does. I mean, look at the action we've had in the last 2 hours. I'm not looking forward to having to remind you of all the highlights in a few minutes' time, because I won't remember them all, I guarantee. There was just so much going on, and some of the best racing we've seen in a long time. And yes, there was a bit of contact on a few occasions, but we've got a big grid, we've got 2 classes, we've got differing speeds of drivers out there, and they're fighting tooth and nail now, because if you spend a couple of laps stuck behind someone, you can lose maybe a couple of seconds that you will not gain back because everyone is so evenly matched. You have to go for these moves, and it does produce lots of spectacular action. And I hope you've all enjoyed the 2 hours of racing here. I think that man has. That is Ollie Wilkinson then wandering down the pit lane in disbelief, I think, at the fact that he's won a race. And that's the first time this year that a silver-silver driver combo has won in GT3. In GT4, almost every car is a silver-silver, but in GT3 there are only the two, and they are both on the podium because Glyn and Ryan Ratcliffe end up third as well. There he is. There is Bradley Ellis.
Fantastic. It's taken you 11 years to do it again, but what a place to do it, and what a way to do it.
Yeah, no, thanks for the highlights. It's been 11 years since I won a GT3 race outright. So, no, but must have been your little chat before the start. So, well, I couldn't have done
I'll take some credit as well. Should we bring Ollie in as well?
Definitely. This is
boys. What a result this has been. What a place to win, and what a way to do it.
No. This is one of the feature races of the season. Everyone loves coming to Spa, and then to put it on pole, lies the flag, in the lead. Couldn't have done it without Ollie, really. He's just been a mega driver to partner with.
Ollie, you had a nail-biting 59 or so minutes of watching. How's that been for you?
Yeah, absolutely amazing to come here to Spa this weekend for the British GT and take a pole position in a class win. I'm absolutely over the moon with that.
I'm sensing we're going to see a proper celebration dance up on the top step, aren't we?
I'll try.
I'll try my best, yeah.
Well done, boys. Go and enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice one.
Well, enjoy it they will, just as we enjoyed the last 120 minutes of racing action. And yeah, to my point, it is the first silver-silver driver combo that won in GT3, and that goes to show just how pro those pro drivers are, because they are very, very hard to beat, despite the fact that the silver cars, of course, are lumbered with an AM driver, but they still are able to occasionally compete for race victories. Well, what a race that was. I think we're all slightly in shock, really, at everything that was going on there. And we will confirm the result for you in a moment or two. But it was Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson then who took the victory from pole position. That makes it sound a lot easier than it probably was. They did lead almost every lap as well, but only won by 10.5 seconds in the end. Over in second place, Ian Logie and Callum McLeod, and third for Ryan Ratcliffe and Glyn Geddy. 3 different makes in the top 3. In fact, there are 4 different makes in the top 4 because Rob Bell and Sean Balfe survived that last corner spin to finish in 4th position. Nicky Thiem and Mark Farmer were 5th, Richard Neary and Adam Christodoulou were 6th, ahead of Johnny Cocker and Sam DeHaan 7th, and they, by my reckoning, will move just about into the points lead. In GT4, by the way, Tom Canning was able to come home, as we said, to win the race in the 97 car that he shares with Ash Hand. Second place went the way of Lewis Proctor in the number 5 car with Jordan Collard. Third for number 95, that was Josh Price and Patrick Kibble. They started second as well, so a good day for TF Sport all round, really, in GT4 at least. Michael O'Brien in the number 20 car that he shared with Graham Johnson came from 18th on the grid to finish 4th. That was a good drive, and rounding out the top 5 in GT4 was the 75 Aston Martin, the Optimum Motorsport car, Patrick Mathieson and Mike Robinson. Combination of the full result there as well. A couple of notable ones to mention. We were focusing a lot on the 19 Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang. That finished in 19th place overall, which was the 5th highest GT4 car. Yes, 5th in GT4, so a good day there for Sir Chris Hoy and Andy Prio. Sorry, that's the 15 car, excuse me, was 5th. The 19 car was 6th place in Pro-Am, excuse me. They were 27th overall. But yes, so the 15 Multimatic Mustang will therefore, I think, maintain its championship advantage just about, but it won't be by a huge margin. It will have come down ever so slightly, but not necessarily to those that were breathing down its neck points-wise coming in to the weekend. So things will no doubt have chopped and changed in the points. The big winners, I suppose, are Tolman Motorsports, Jordan Collard and Lewis Proctor, so they take home the maximum 37.5 points, which puts them just over 100 points. Maxwell and Prio for 5th place will score 15, so there's maybe going to be 3 or 4 points in it now in GT4 as well between the Mustang and the Tolman McLaren, but a day to forget for HHC with both of their cars in the end running into problems late on. Fabulous 2 hours of racing though. The drivers are slowly making their way up to the podium, and in baking hot conditions now here at Spa-Francorchamps. The race completed, and what a race It was, and Joe Osborne, that was, I think, possibly the race of the year. That was certainly, there was never a dull moment, was there, over the 2 hours, which often is the case, but this one in particular, when you add in especially some of the championship implications and all of our championship contenders, it seemed, hitting trouble at one point or another, that was a dramatic couple of hours.
Yeah, it definitely was, and there wasn't any major contact, no safety cars, so it was a good level of racing, cleanness-wise. There's a few little things, but when you see 3 cars going into Eau Rouge, obviously Geddy one of them, McLeod the other, and Rob Bell being the other, and all 3 getting through, I think that is a highlight for me that I've seen at Spa and GT racing. So great job for all the guys, and I think it's a deserved podium as well. I don't think anyone there has got lucky. Everyone has done it, and the winners haven't put a foot wrong, and that's what it should all be about. You have a clean race and you do everything right, you should win, and that's what's happened to Ollie and Brad there. We
often say that in long distance racing, and I count a 2-hour race as a reasonably long race. The 2-hour races, we often say that qualifying doesn't really count for a huge amount, but they started on pole, did Optimum, and they were able to pull away and make the most of that track position they had from the start.
Yeah, good to see Sam Dahan get driver of the day, gentleman-wise, which is great. I thought he deserved it, so it's good that SRO also just do it. We've got Hildebrand, from Sunoco handing out the trophies. Boys will get their hands on the lovely, lovely sweet champagne before they spray each other, and it's quite nice on a day like this to cool yourself down. A little bit sticky, but at least it tastes so nice.
Yes, indeed, and they will enjoy a bottle or two, I'm sure, later on this afternoon as well. But yeah, they started from pole. They led virtually every lap. There may have been a couple in the middle that they didn't because of the pit stop sequences, etc. But they led, Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson between them led 46 laps. Only the number 7 car led another 3 laps, and that was as a result of them pitting a little bit later. So they really were dominant today, and yet still it was in question down until the last 10 minutes as to whether they would hang on, and they do now spray the champagne not only on each other but on the eager crowd down below who have assembled to celebrate with them. And that is then your GT3 overall podium presentation made to Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson, your race winners, Callum McLeod and Ian Logie in second, and Glyn Geddy and Ryan Ratcliffe, who get on to the podium for the second time this year. So they vacate the podium then.
Ollie's still got a bit of work to do there. He'd already sprayed all his champagne by the time he went to get the crowd, so he's young, he's still got to learn, but yeah, it's good to see everyone loving it so much. And I think 2-hour race, there's so much pent up, like you're just in a constant state of fear as a driver when you're not in the car of what's going to happen. So when you finally get to the end and you get on the podium, then there's a lot of pent up frustration.
Yeah, absolutely, and we saw at the end of the race as well that it would have been very easy for Bradley Ellis to have switched off and sort of thought, well, I've got a comfortable margin now, it's the last corner, and then all of a sudden it's a good job he wasn't switched off, because things can happen right at the end of the race, and it's no wonder that the teams and drivers down in the pit lane are chewing their fingernails until the car has crossed that start-finish line and seen the checkered flag, and then maybe they can just start to relax. Well, TF Sport were due a good race. I think we said that a couple of hours ago, and they certainly had a good one in GT4. Their GT3 challenge faded slightly as far as the 47 car was concerned, but Nicky Team got their GT3 car into 5th, and then both of their GT4 cars on the podium. Tom Ferrier will be a happy man, I think, this evening. A circuit maybe that suits the Aston Martins, or is this just the fact that the team are now getting on top of these cars that were new, both the GT3 and GT4 car was new this season?
Yeah, I think the latter. I think the BOP's okay. I don't think it's amazing. I think it's TF are really, really getting on top of this car now in GT4 and GT3, and they're giving the drivers the opportunity to go and win races like they have in GT4 and do the fastest lap like they did in GT3 with Nicky Team. So a bit more luck on the AM side in GT3. They could have had 2 cars on the podium there as well, I think.
Well, Nicky Team gained about 30-odd seconds on the race leader during his stint as well. He finished just 40 seconds off the lead, and he was well over a minute back when he took over from Mark Farmer. So the champagne celebrations then amongst the GT4 drivers is done, and very young podium that is as well, isn't it? Which if
they're underage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe they have to spray it rather than drink it. But I think Ash Hand is probably the oldest driver up there, and he's not exactly
an old hand.
And exactly. I see what you did there. Yeah, there is a lot of youth these days in GT racing. I think that's something that's changed a bit over, maybe this is with the success of the GT3 and GT4 categories over the last decade or so, but young up-and-coming drivers really now see GTs as not only a place that they can progress their career, but they can make a living out of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, single-seaters at the moment. We see the state it's in Formula One. There's only really 12 drivers getting paid, and they're few and far between across other championships. Whereas GT, there's probably 150 guys in the world getting paid to do it. So it's a lot more plausible to make a career of it, as you said. And yeah, we see the pro-am nature of GT racing. Scott will be getting paid from Nick. Mikey O'Brien will get paid from Graham Johnson. Matt George will be getting paid as well, so it's a great way to earn a living. Driving cars around in circles is a very fortunate way to have your career go.
There are worse jobs in the world, aren't there? That's for sure. But yeah, that's another Pro-Am podium then for the Jaguar. They're racking them up a little bit at the moment. That is it's only their second of the year actually. No, it's their third of the year. Excuse me. They have had 3 podiums in Pro-Am this year. Have the Jaguar.
That's a really good result for the Balf GT4 guys. Graham Johnson there. He's had a prominent weekend. His race boots are too small, he told me, but they cost too much money. They're £1,000, so he doesn't want to change them. He told his wife they're already 500 as well. So great job by those guys. And again, 3 different cars on the podium there: McLaren, Jaguar and a Mercedes. So yeah, I wonder, it'd be interesting to know what Plowman's take on that was, obviously finishing behind that Mercedes after the bit of contact when Malvin and him clashed at Le Con.
Yeah, indeed. Now, speaking of Martin Plowman, they finished 4th in class, so they will score 18 points, which is 9 fewer than Michael O'Brien and Graham Johnson. So that gap comes down to just 11 points now at the top of the GT4 Pro-Am Championship campaign as well. So if you are with us at Donington, Joe, and I hope you are, then I think we're going to be in for a really, really intense end to the season. We've got 2 races to go now as well, at 2 completely different circuits, Brands Hatch and Donington Park Grand Prix. So whatever car you're in, one of those racetracks will suit you. It's going down to the wire, this, isn't it? Not just in GT3 and GT4, but within the Pro-Am elements as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a betting man. I actually wouldn't put on money on any of them at the moment because it is too close to call. Too many variables. We haven't really had a consistent pairing yet to every round go out and knock out the ballpark and do the job that's needed. There's been a few mistakes, be it on the team front or drivers, so it's been really, really difficult. So yeah, hard to go with that. I think Andy J's in the pit lane with the GT4 winner, so it'd be good to get their take on how their 2 hours went.
First up, you got absolutely caked in champagne there. I mean, that's part and parcel of winning, isn't it?
Yeah, part and parcel of winning, but your teammate's drowning you in it. That ain't best, is it? Yeah.
I'm sure you'll forgive him. What a stint. How does it feel to win here at Spa?
I'm over the moon. Spa, what a place to do it as well. I think Ash did a big chunk of the work in the first stint, going from 6th to 2nd. So for me, it was just a job of finishing it off. But yeah, Ash did a big chunk of the work, but just over the moon to win here. And for Aston Martin, for the Aston Martin Vantage, it's his first win in British GT this year, so it's brilliant for them, TF Sport and us. So
is that the best you've driven, Ash?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's a consistency of what we've done throughout the year. We've gone from Alton Park, where we had 2 DNFs. We had an awful weekend to start with, and we decided that we were going to build up throughout the year, and we were going to aim to try and lead the championship and get to there before the last round. So hopefully at the next round, if we can lead the championship there, and then we gain good points. But I think the driving from both of us has been consistent. Like Tom all weekend, he's been topping the table in terms of free practice 2. We've been right up there in pace the whole time. So when you go into a race like this, you feel so prepared. It's easy to drive in a confident way and feel like you're going to win, because all the preparation we've done together to help each other is so strong. So I'm over the moon with the result. I couldn't be happier, and to have a winner's trophy in our hand at Spa is meaningful, yeah.
Fellas, you just won at Spa. Give it some. Well done. Congratulations. Happy days. Well done. Brilliant. Good stuff. That only leaves me to throw back to our fabulous commentary team. Joe and Andy, talk us through this incredible race, would you?
We'll do our best. There was quite a lot going on, though, over 2 hours, and it all started with Optimum Motorsport at the front, and it finished with Optimum Motorsport at the front. Easy as that. There was a lot that happened in between, though. At the start, it was very, very congested, with a late call to change the lights from red to green. and the race got underway with the 96 car leading them into the first corner. It was a good start made by Michael Igoe as well in the number 18 McLaren, Lamborghini, excuse me, whilst a few others tried some weird and wacky lines through the first corner to gain ground. There was contact though between Rick Parfitt and Sam Dillane. Sam Dillane, second in the championship, ended up pointing the wrong way, and it looked as though their day was going to end in disaster. Mark Farmer was also in trouble as he tried to make a move around the outside of Richard Neary, got tagged into a spin, and he became one of many drivers trying to fight back after early problems. Calvin Fletcher had a good stint though. He was racing well in the GT4 Beechstein Aston Martin, and then there was a spin for Adam Ballon, the championship leading Lamborghini, into the fence coming out of the fastest corner on the track. Front and rear damage, their day was done, and they have lost their championship lead now to the sister car. It was all getting very physical out there amongst most of the battles in GT3 and GT4 before the pit stop window opened and the Optimum car came into the pit lane to serve its penaltyless pit stop, from which it was able to rejoin still as the race leader. As the GT3 cars battled amongst the GT4s, things got very close, and then we had a phenomenal three-wide move for second place into Eau Rouge, which saw Callum McLeod move from 4th to 2nd, a position he would hold to the flag. There was late drama though for the Tolman McLaren, nerfed out of the lead of GT4, but Optimum Motorsports' Ollie Wilkinson and Bradley Ellis won the GT3 category after a phenomenal 2 hours of racing here at Spa-Francorchamps.